The demon queen sat calmly, her staff pulsing with power, watching lightning strike her fortress tower. She smiled coldly as warriors fell below, mocking their dream to defeat her with rare strength. Facing the last opponent, she reminded them, victory was useless without returning alive from her domain. A mage unleashed radiant magic, forcing the queen back. Still, many collapsed, dying heroic but silent deaths. Even if one survived, they'd be feared stronger than a demon but hated like one too. As battle raged, the girl struck fiercely, knowing fame alone could never guarantee stability afterward. The demon queen collapsed. A young warrior stood above, hesitating before striking the final blow. Those 5 were called the Children of Miracles, SS ranked, chosen to lead the decisive war. Among them was one boy who chose, quietly and firmly, to never stand out again. 5 years later, he lived quietly in Alvinus, running a guild on 12th Street unnoticed. Inside the guild, he sipped wine quietly, while she poured more with excessive formality. Though disguised as a maid, her loyalty bordered on obsession, confusing him with submissive behavior. She reminded him she waited 5 years, still hoping he'd acknowledge her feelings and presence. In truth, she once ruled as the demon lord, now hiding under the role of servant. He took her talisman, sealing her power, and promised return only if she behaved. Dick Silver introduced himself humbly, denying he was a hero, despite standing at the center. The disguised demon lord explained her changed appearance and how she honored their 5-year promise. She refused the talisman's return, angry he ignored the emotions she held throughout those years. He offered a duel for resolution, while she warned of shame without her sealed power. As tension rose, a cloaked stranger entered the guild silently, drawing attention from both of them. The mysterious guest requested a unique drink. The maid suggested milk, and he agreed quietly. After recognition, the guest explained a personal mission that no other guild would accept or understand. She revealed her goal to annul the royal engagement between Princess Manarina and Marquis Vinsberkut. She was the princess's maid-in-waiting. The princess feared forced marriage and even harming herself. Vinsberkut sought power through marriage. His vile reputation and treatment of women were widely known. Shocked by support, the maid-in-waiting questioned the possibility of annulling the royal engagement officially. Dick drank casually, dismissed concern, and confirmed the guild would assist, requesting details to proceed. Verlaine maid inquired if a legal method existed. The girl hesitantly confirmed it did. Annulment was possible by royal duel. Vinsberkut's strength was formidable, much greater than the princess's. Adventurer rankings revealed Dick's true power far beyond all others, marked as SS with unmatched stats. Dick reminded them the duel mattered only if the princess lacked powerful backup. He requested milk. Surprised by his drink choice, the maid-in-waiting wondered if he took her advice seriously. Dick held his glowing glass firmly, vowing to solve any client request through any means. Despite his declaration, she noticed he still tried to operate quietly without attracting attention again. He passed her a glass gently, calling it a treat, his way of offering support. The girl became offended, assuming the milk was a childish gesture, reacting with visible frustration. Verlaine apologized, encouraging her to accept. She calmly returned to discussing the engagement request. After drinking, she praised the milk's taste. The atmosphere softened, and she felt reassured. Verlaine outlined the plan: challenge the Marquis to a duel and ensure the princess wins. She promised full support, requesting the girl tell the princess to trust them and fight. The girl questioned their method, fearing poison. Verlaine calmly guaranteed success without any evidence left. Dick and the girl agreed to trust the silver mug. She placed her faith in him. Dick instructed the shopkeeper to serve a unique drink. Verlaine confirmed his surprising decision carefully. She received a special beverage. Surprised by its elegance, she praised Dick's unexpected refined taste. She enjoyed the drink and admitted the milk was also good, but timing mattered emotionally. Dick toasted with the girl, signaling the completion of the deal and requesting his reward quietly. In the grand arena, the duel ended with Marquis Weinberg's shocking defeat before the crowd. The victor was declared Princess Manarina Lila Albine, who stood proud, sword in hand, eyes steady. Dick's reward wasn't gold or fame. He welcomed Aileen, a cook, into his circle. The group praised Dick's fairness. The Marquis lost honor, and the princess gained trust and allies. While prepping food, Dick heard rumors about Princess Manarina rejecting suitors after meeting him once. A bell rang. Concerned, Dick and the maids rushed. No customer should see him working. Footsteps echoed. Dick and Aileen peeked through the door, cautiously greeting the unexpected visitor outside. 2 cloaked women entered. One demanded to meet the person behind the infamous silver mug. As the cloak shifted, a luxurious emblem emerged, marking her status, power, and likely hidden intent. The noblewoman stepped forward with authority. demanding Dick Silver's presence, her companion watching quietly from behind. The 5 heroes stood before the throne, rewarded by the king for slaying the demon lord. Each warrior requested treasures reflecting their dreams, power, luxury, or peace, while one hesitated quietly behind them. Dick Silver, unnoticed and humble, was told his efforts were minimal despite joining the final battle. He denied praise, stating he merely kept pace, though his teammates fiercely defended his worth before the king. Dick requested something simple to live quietly, unnoticed, choosing a path yielding peace, profit, and no more spotlight. Dick requested permission to create a new guild, aiming to build success through other adventurers. The king offered him the failing 12th Guild, located in the capital's worst district. Dick accepted it without hesitation, believing the quiet location perfect for a life away from fame. Soon, rumors spread as powerful figures searched for him, revealing his past influence in secret battles. One girl, Mylarka, exposed his hidden strength. His unmatched enhancement magic had empowered others to victory. Mylarka became a professor at 14, feared for her fierce personality and deadly annihilation magic. Known as the Beautiful Disaster, her fame rivaled her destructive power and unapproachable attitude. She admitted teaching Manarina magic, shocking others by casually addressing the hidden princess without formality. Manarina confessed her true identity, revealing royal blood and feelings masked by awkward misunderstandings around Dick. Embarrassed by a romantic misunderstanding, she blamed Mylarka and scolded Dick for unintentionally causing chaos. Manarina's strength became public, but her enhancement needed repeating, raising suspicion about Dick's true method. Mylarka imagined an exaggerated scene, accusing Dick of luring Manarina and behaving inappropriately during training. Dick was stunned by her hostility, unsure why Mylarka always treated him so aggressively. Suddenly, Aileen, an energetic girl, embraced Mylarka tightly, surprising her with an overly enthusiastic reunion. Aileen teased Mylarka's growth without shame, comparing past and present, flustering her in front of everyone watching. Mylarka blushed in embarrassment while Aileen teased her, forcing Dick into an uncomfortable position again. She looked away, quietly believing Dick would never be interested in someone like her anyway. Seeing Dick and Aileen close together made Mylarka assume their relationship was more than friends. A drunken misunderstanding was clarified. Aileen only needed comfort, but her actions caused major confusion. Though still flustered, Mylarka accepted the story, pretending to give her blessing while hiding disappointment. Although things settled, Dick ended up blamed again for being passive and lacking confidence. Manarina nervously admitted she admired Dick since their first meeting 5 years ago as a child. She remembered their first encounter, insisting her interest wasn't due to pity or his title. Dick downplayed himself again, but Manarina reminded him of his quiet strength during the Demon Lord campaign. She recalled his thoughtful kindness at the bar, touched even by his small gestures and care. Manarina offered heartfelt support, asking Dick to rely on her if he ever needed help. Dick shyly accepted, finally addressing her by name, earning a bright, grateful smile in return. Meanwhile, the others agreed Dick's awkwardness was frustrating, but somehow it kept pulling them all closer. Later that evening, the tavern buzzed as Mylarka quietly called out to Dick in thought. Dick returned with drinks, showing care in small ways, helping ease tensions between the girls once again. Dick quietly offered a healthy drink, showing care again, prompting a question about avoiding attention. He gave a vague answer, but the girl insisted he always hid strength behind modest actions. Dick began telling a story about a country child unaware of his strength growing up. One day, a magical beast attacked the village, terrifying the other children and endangering everyone nearby. To protect his friends, the child fought the beast alone using only a tree branch. Dick's simple gesture of offering cureberry drinks surprised the girls with his quiet, thoughtful care. One of them asked why he avoids fame, questioning if it limits his influence. Dick answered vaguely, admitting he prefers a low profile, avoiding direct paths to recognition or power. He began a tale of a child raised to suppress strength, thinking it a story. That child, forced to act when danger came, protected friends by defeating a beast alone. Mylarka poured a drink for Dick while he quietly reflected on the day's tension and words. With a smile, Mylarka offered comfort, telling Dick to forget everything that troubled him today. The next morning, Dick met his companions again, surrounded by familiar faces and light-hearted banter. Later that week, they gathered again, discussing university, magic experiments, and Mylarka's destructive research passion. At a new tavern, Dick welcomed a hooded stranger beside him with calm hospitality. Dick subtly acknowledged involvement with the princess, knowing his magical traces were too recognizable to hide. Cody Elstead, knight commander and trusted friend, reminisced about old times while speaking sincerely to Dick. They laughed over drinks, sharing memories and comfort. both avoiding the serious reason for their meeting. Cody admitted he came not for ale but for a job only Dick could handle. Cody solemnly requested Dick's help defeating a fire dragon, knowing only he could succeed discreetly. Cody quietly approached Dick at the bar, requesting his help to fight the fire dragon. They discussed the threat near the capital and Cody's subordinate, Oju, who volunteered courageously. Despite being A rank, a full adventurer party failed against the dragon's overwhelming strength and fury. Cody explained her royal orders and desire to support Oju's determined choice to fight. Dick questioned Oju's link to the king, but Cody hesitated, holding back a deeper truth. She stood firmly, revealed as the daughter of the king's mistress, hiding noble blood. She entered the bar confidently, confirming the location before preparing to announce her formal identity. Verlaine bartender kindly interrupted, explaining that no one needed to reveal themselves in public. Dick calmly ordered milk while Oju requested the store's special, sensing a familiar face nearby. Another knight entered, reporting the situation was resolved. Oju addressed Dick respectfully, awaiting further direction. The beastkin swordswoman declared confidence in slaying the fire dragon, supported by a calm male sniper. Their leader introduced the party, clarified they sought information only, and warned against interference in battle. Verlaine bartender promised helpful information, offering a mutual promise to ensure coordinated dragon subjugation efforts. The beastkin slammed the counter in protest, but her leader assured success for their father's sake. The guildmaster respected their resolve, apologized, and outlined the plan, but the leader wanted more. Verlaine explained the fire dragon's ecology must be studied before any subjugation could succeed. She presented a handwritten manual titled How to Defeat the Fire Dragon to the group. Skepticism rose. Some questioned the notebook's value, while others defended the researcher's credibility and experience. They discussed the notebook's unknown author, questioning its secrecy and doubting a B-rank's achievement claim. Despite curiosity about the author's power, using the method was dismissed to preserve the leader's merit. She opened the notebook, eyes widening as unfamiliar yet detailed fire dragon research appeared inside. The group questioned how the mysterious author could gather such specific and secret biological observations. The notes revealed the dragon's mineral habits and drinking pattern tied to daily regeneration needs. He silently recalled researching before, impressed by the data, wondering who truly wrote the notebook. He revised field data in the forest, concluded the notes helped but strength alone wasn't enough. He offered drinks to ease tension. Others commented on his strange choice of ordering milk. She named the drink, intrigued. The other man described its exotic ingredients with practiced clarity. She introduced the special milk, sourced from a behemoth, ideal for her strengthening magic. Milk was served with enchanted cookies. The group debated customs and formalities over casual drinking. He offered to test for poison, but others drank first, embracing the tavern's drinking ritual. Dick resumed the meeting, discussing tactics while guests quietly sipped the alcohol he provided earlier. Raya presented a worn notebook within it, precise instructions and a critical agreement from their side. The team planned to capture, not kill, the dragon at scale, proving the mission's success. 3 days later, the team gathered again. Their goal was simple: achieve the dragon's subjugation record. With new knowledge, they assessed the dragon's movements and patterns, questioning if theory met reality. Oju questioned the maid's concern for dragons. The maid explained it was knightly regulation policy. Oju admitted needing a dragon-level feat to qualify as vice-captain and meet her idol. She admired Manarina, a heroic swordswoman who once defied aristocratic pressure in a public duel. Oju revealed her lineage as the king's mistress's daughter, determined to protect her mother. Recognizing Oju's determination, the maid permitted rest, urging preparation for tomorrow's fire dragon subjugation mission. Laughter eased the tension. Dick handed papers to the maid while customers were politely managed. Before departure, the maid explained a rune must be written to enhance magical resistance. Though hesitant, Oju agreed. Raya raised concerns, but the rune's placement demanded privacy and precision. Raya grew protective, warning Dick. He drank silently, unsure if he could trust the situation. Inside the candlelit room, the maid calmly prepared the ink, instructing Oju to undress. She hesitated as her uniform loosened, revealing signs of training she'd long tried to ignore. Oju approached with care, dipping her brush into the mixture, while the knight sat still, tense. Delicate strokes painted glowing script across her chest, binding magic she didn't fully understand but accepted quietly. She expressed concern. Her body hindered combat, but Oju calmly explained the spell could only enhance. As power shifted, Dick demonstrated control over the spell, his mastery unsettling yet revered among the guild. Dick grew anxious about his reputation, silently vowing to discipline the demon lord for chaos caused. The team entered Belforn's forest, fully prepared with memorized plans and a firm grasp of terrain strategy. With determination in her eyes, the knight affirmed her resolve, standing firm before the monster's lair. As flames gathered, the massive fire dragon emerged, signaling that the silent operation was finally about to begin. The guild remained closed on the operation day, while Dick calmly drank and Verlaine quietly observed. She approached him with concern, noting his careful preparation and slight fatigue from the night before. Verlaine noticed his magic had weakened, yet Dick remained composed, requesting his usual drink before departing again. Despite knowing his heart lingered elsewhere, Verlaine reassured herself, pushing away any hidden thoughts about the talisman. From the shadows, another girl smiled slyly, pleased by the rare moment of being alone with him. Hidden in the forest, Raya, Oju, and McKinley waited silently for the fire dragon's arrival. A strange light bug emerged, startling Oju, slipping into her armor, causing confusion among the focus team. Raya and McKinley exchanged glances. The mysterious glow floated upward, unnoticed by the watching dragon overhead. The massive fire dragon descended near the water, its wings beating heavily, signaling the beginning of confrontation. Following Duke Solver's manual, Oju prepared to distract it while the others executed their coordinated strike plan. Oju charged from hiding, sliding into position, shield raised, drawing the dragon's full attention immediately. Face to face with the beast, she stood firm, provoking it into a direct and aggressive confrontation. The dragon roared furiously, exposing its open mouth as McKinley received the signal to release his shot. With precise aim and perfect timing, McKinley unleashed the bolt toward the dragon's exposed weak point. Oju prepared her counterstrike, staring into the dragon's mouth, knowing the decisive moment had finally arrived. Oju landed a powerful blow straight to the dragon's face, forcing it to stagger and recoil. The silence bullet struck true, blocking its fire breath, causing it to cough and lose focus. With momentum shifting, Raya leaped forward, slashing across the dragon's flank while it struggled to keep balance. The dragon took to the air, but McKinley launched a shot to intercept its upward escape. Hidden in cover, McKinley recalled tactics. Fire attacks failed, but explosive shots disrupted flight at low altitude. Oju referenced the manual mid-fight, confirming dragon patterns and counter strategies written for every movement. With sharpened resolve, she deflected the dragon's charge, her shield holding firm against its frontal assault. The wounded dragon staggered back, and Raya advanced beside Oju to maintain offensive pressure without pause. They targeted the scale's underside repeatedly, following the manual's advice to break through the dragon's endurance. As planned, their attacks herded it toward the magic trap where the restraint chain could be activated. The beast lunged in fury, but the girl countered swiftly, striking its exposed jaw decisively. From afar, the archer observed the battle, confident their coordinated efforts would break the dragon's defense. The fire dragon roared wildly, pierced by arrows and slashes, its strength beginning to falter quickly. The enraged dragon charged again, releasing immense pressure, but the girls held formation, targeting weak spots persistently. As exhaustion set in, they steadied themselves, recalling vital advice: stay focused, never yield, strike with purpose. The fire dragon lunged. The girl with cat ears pushed her master away from the danger. The dragon's claws slashed downward. The attack ripped the air, tearing into the earth violently. The knight collapsed, wounded. Oju froze, realizing the price of a single mistake. Raya collapsed from the dragon's strike. Oju rushed to her side, heart pounding with fear. McKinley watched from the shadows. The silencing spell weakened. The dragon's core began awakening again rapidly. With urgency, McKinley reloaded his weapon and fired the second bullet straight toward the dragon's head. The silencing bullet missed its target. The dragon dodged and flung the arrow away mid-flight. The dragon remained focused. McKinley shouted, trying to distract it before it could fully regain strength. McKinley shouted orders while distracting the dragon. A rock launched back and struck him mid-command. Raya and Oju hid in the bushes. Raya insisted on staying behind to fight. Despite trembling legs, Raya stood with resolve. She begged Oju to flee while she defended. Oju refused Raya's plea. She raised her enchanted shield, determined to stop the dragon's fire. The dragon advanced. Oju blocked its path. She gritted her teeth, buying time for Raya. Oju's grip trembled. The dragon's power surged. Victory felt close yet still out of reach. Facing the monstrous silhouette, Oju remembered her parents. Guilt and sorrow welled deep in her chest. A voice echoed in her mind, urging her forward. She recalled every lesson ever learned. With new resolve, Oju raised her shield. She braced for impact, feet grounded and steady. The dragon unleashed its fire. Oju and Raya stood firm, prepared to endure the oncoming blast. The dragon's flames roared violently. Oju held firm, shielding herself against the unrelenting inferno's pressure. The blast overwhelmed her armor. She collapsed beside Raya, her body scorched, her breathing strained. McKinley emerged from hiding. Oju knelt beside Raya, shaken but relieved to see her alive. Oju cried with joy. Raya, battered yet smiling, reminded her that knights don't show tears. Despite her injuries, Raya stood. Oju noticed her wounds fading unusually fast for such trauma. The dragon, restrained by enchanted chains and seals, lay unconscious before the quiet armored Oju. She confirmed the plan worked. Paralysis bullets and capture chains successfully subdued the beast for now. Raya and Oju stood silently, surveying the battlefield's aftermath, their enemy secured, the ground scorched. Oju examined her shattered shield. Even reinforced, it barely withstood the dragon's overwhelming firepower. A soft light flickered nearby. Oju turned, startled, as a firefly drifted peacefully into view. Oju froze as the glowing firefly shimmered. Memories stirred, an impossible presence now stood near. Her voice trembled. She called out gently, questioning if someone lost long ago had returned. The firefly rose. A cloth dropped silently to the ground as if releasing a burden. Elsewhere, Verlaine relaxed. Dick rested on her lap. She commented on demon lords and interference. Verlaine teased him calmly. Dick, startled, protested as she reminded him of his hidden potential. Dick found himself trapped between Verlaine's chest. Struggling to breathe, he panicked under her teasing. Verlaine whispered playfully while cuddling closer. Dick hesitated, unsure if he should resist or remain still. In an awkward reflex, Dick's hands landed on her chest. Both froze, eyes wide in shock. They sat apart, flustered and embarrassed. Dick tried to explain while Verlaine nervously avoided his gaze. Verlaine reflected on her actions. She sought to win his affection but needed better timing. Dick reflects on the fire dragon incident, hiding his embarrassment while Verlaine quietly teases him. Verlaine asks about the fire dragon's fate. Dick stalls while she comments on their efforts. Days later, Dick invites Mylarka into the forest, saying he has something important to show. Mylarka doubts his motives, but Dick assures her they're close and gestures toward a hidden gate. He reveals a pasture where the fire dragon lives peacefully. Mylarka calls him a monster lover. The young dragons curiously approached Mylarka, who stood motionless, overwhelmed by their innocent eyes. She suddenly embraced one of them, smiling warmly, overcome with joy at their adorableness. Dick watched silently from afar, feeling content as Mylarka played happily with the baby dragons. Flustered by her cuteness, he denied imagining future children, causing her to storm off embarrassed. He comforted the anxious dragon parent nearby, guiding it away to diffuse the awkward situation. Verlaine served drinks as adventurers filled the guild, celebrating a job completed with mild chatter. Oju shared the news of the fire dragon's capture, her voice firm but heart clearly grateful. McKinley and Raya recalled Duke Solver's unseen help, convinced his guidance had turned the battle's tide. Oju offered everything she owned as payment, her eyes full of resolve and quiet respect. With trembling voice, she asked to meet Duke Solver. Unaware, he sat quietly behind her, listening. McKinley and Raya, overwhelmed by failure, pleaded to join the guild to become stronger allies. They praised Duke's guidance, grateful for surviving the dragon, while Oju longed to thank him personally. Verlaine promised Duke would appear if Oju proved her strength by earning the knight's vice-captain rank. Encouraged by Verlaine's words, Oju vowed to grow stronger, believing Duke awaited her success patiently. Suddenly, a familiar figure approached from behind. Oju froze, as a calm voice softly called her name. Manarina appeared with confidence, startling Oju as she quietly called her sister's name in surprise. Oju questioned Manarina's arrival, only to learn Dick had summoned her upon hearing Oju was present. Raya and McKinley suspected Dick's identity, while he nervously deflected, fearing exposure as Duke Solver. Mylarka casually asked for a drink, teasing Dick, who scrambled to keep his identity hidden. Manarina accepted his gesture, letting Dick treat both sisters. As the guild buzzed with cheerful praise, laughter echoed through the guild as drinks were raised. Dick quietly watched Mylarka sip hers. Verlaine, seeing the sisters' devotion, warned Dick that revealing himself would carry heavy consequences and responsibility. Dick, overwhelmed by emotion and confusion, admitted defeat in understanding women and accepted Verlaine's teasing offer. She closed her dragon manual with a smirk, suggesting he write one for women instead. Meanwhile, Oju held Manarina's hand, grateful her wish was fulfilled without drawing attention to herself. Evening settled over the guild as Lisa arrived cheerfully, ordering ale and joining the others. She sat down beside Dick uninvited, grinning as she asked if the seat was available. Dick tried to stay composed, but Lisa playfully teased him while raising her mug with a smile. Verlaine misunderstood Lisa's Mrs. comment, prompting Lisa to joke, while Dick internally questioned her surprising charm. Conversation shifted suddenly. Lisa revealed news of an orphanage director's illness, her tone finally turning serious. Lisa explained the orphanage director's condition, linking it to strange ghost rumors in the city. A distant figure recalled the location as the Albine Church Orphanage, nestled in the parish outskirts. Dick arrived quietly, watching children play outside before gently opening the chapel door without alerting them. Inside the chapel, he found a priestess standing alone, lost in prayer before the altar. The priestess, Euphila Manifrose, nicknamed Yuma, greeted Dick, revealing divine knowledge and her power to purify the undead. Dick awkwardly complimented Yuma's appearance, admiring her resilience running the orphanage since the demon lord's fall. Yuma explained her illness and orphanage limitations, while Dick encouraged her to relax despite her duties. Though calm, Yuma admitted her soul no longer trembled. Dick questioned if she had changed. Yuma confessed something felt different. Dick noticed her avoiding grand ideals she'd once spoken passionately about. Her voice trembled as she began to speak, something unspoken weighed heavily between them both. Yuma broke down, confessing she could no longer perform the requiem she once mastered. She recalled her reason to ease Dick's heart but misunderstood, alarming him with her sudden soul-soothing intent. Dick gently stopped her, promising she could soothe his soul only after his life fully ends. They later shared lunch peacefully, Dick reflecting on Yuma's intensity and how deeply she clings to purpose. Determined, Dick left the church, vowing to support Yuma in ways she no longer expected. Dick secretly relayed the Arbor's location and password to the church through trusted guild messengers. Unexpectedly, several robed figures arrived at the guild without formal notice, stirring quiet concern in Dick. Grenadine Manifrose revealed his identity, explaining his urgent visit involved his mysteriously ailing daughter, Yuma. Dick hadn't expected Yuma's influential parents, the Archbishop and his wife, to appear and plead in person. Verlaine promised unwavering support, vowing the guild would uncover the illness and restore Yuma's health completely. Dick explained Yuma's condition to Mylarka and Aileen, both listening quietly around the table. Although surprised, Mylarka and Aileen agreed to help after recalling subtle changes in Yuma's appearance recently. Verlaine, composed as ever, formally requested their cooperation in a plan involving close personal contact with Yuma. She proposed a friendly sleepover to observe Yuma directly in a relaxed, natural environment. Dick calculated they'd manage fine without him, but awkwardly reassured everyone while dodging teasing glances and comments. Dick wanted to help Yuma discreetly, but the girls misunderstood his reluctance and intentions completely. Despite teasing him, the group admired Dick's quiet kindness, often praising his unspoken efforts behind the scenes. A few days later, he disguised himself as Dick Dian to avoid recognition while assisting them. The girls arrived at the mansion, impressed by his voice, presence, and the luxurious surroundings. As they entered, the grand hall amazed them with its sheer size, elegance, and welcoming atmosphere. Dick welcomed the girls and guided them to relax before evening preparations began. Unexpectedly, the girls jokingly requested massages, trusting his butler role, while Dick struggled to maintain his composure. Yuma, still unaware of his identity, spoke formally. Dick reassured her with a respectful religious oath. Yuma offered a prayer of gratitude, sensing a warmth in the space and divine presence above. Suddenly, she paused and detected something, an echo of malice and unrest hidden within the mansion's atmosphere. Yuma's prayer eased the atmosphere, but Dick sensed faint traces of danger still lingering nearby. While distracted by suspicion, Dick was pulled into fulfilling an earlier promise under awkward, intense conditions. Trying to stay professional, Dick performed the task carefully, though the moment stirred unintended reactions from Aileen. The situation escalated as tension grew between composure and discomfort, forcing Dick to stay strictly focused throughout. To regain control, Dick suggested organizing the sessions privately, where boundaries could be respected and intentions clarified. Dick gently redirected Aileen, keeping the situation under control while Yuma grew increasingly suspicious of him. Aileen nearly exposed Dick's identity, playfully teasing him, forcing him to stay alert under rising risk. To maintain cover, Dick focused entirely on healing magic, channeling power to help everyone rest peacefully. With the others asleep, Dick turned to Yuma, guiding her calmly and carefully for spiritual treatment. Yuma responded positively, her body relaxed and tension fading, as Dick confirmed the healing was taking steady effect. As Euphila spoke, she unknowingly praised Dick, recalling a friend with similar healing abilities. She expressed admiration for his kindness, honesty, and dedication, revealing how much he quietly supported everyone before. Encouraged by his words, Euphila began to reflect deeply on her own purpose and growth. Grateful and reassured, she thanked him sincerely, finally sensing clarity in her heart and lightness in body. With treatment complete, Dick exited quietly, preparing for dinner while Euphila chose to rest peacefully upstairs. While descending, Dick heard footsteps echoing unnaturally. There should be no one else inside the mansion. He followed the sound toward the attic, where the hallway ended in a door rarely used. Inside the dim attic, a mysterious girl stood silently among dust-covered furniture and eerie stillness. Dick confronted the unknown figure directly, questioning her presence and demanding answers for her silent intrusion. She raised her hand slowly, lifting her dress slightly, hinting at a strange, deliberate intent ahead. The girl finally spoke, revealing herself as a descendant of the mansion's original long-lost family. Beatrice stood in the shadowed room, revealing her noble past and tragic connection to this mansion. Dick listened carefully, realizing the girl understood more about the building than any map ever revealed. She denied hiding, yet no one had ever seen her. Her presence remained unseen, unnoticed. Bathed in sunlight, she confessed she had always existed throughout the entire mansion without moving. Beatrice finally revealed her essence. She wasn't just inside the mansion, she was the mansion itself. Beatrice watched silently through the window, declaring her duty to protect the mansion without rest. She stood under the light, explaining her loyalty remained despite the family abandoning their ancestral home. Dick questioned her presence, learning she was a lingering spirit bound to her duty and memories. Her wish was simple: stay within the mansion until her long-lost family returns one day. Later, the new guests dined below her gaze. Sensing the quiet spirit still faithfully watching, Dick warned the girls of Beatrice's presence, advising caution as they stayed within the historic mansion walls. Mylarka grew suspicious of Dick's words, believing he exaggerated and teased them just to stir fear. Despite her calm expression, Yuma fixated on Dick, her inner thoughts echoing oddly, raising concern for everyone present. While Mylarka analyzed Yuma's behavior, Dick and Aileen grew uneasy with her unresolved emotional reactions and tension. Though teased to ascend Dick's spirit, Yuma hesitated, unsure of her strange feelings and what they truly meant. Yuma objected to Aileen's casual suggestion, defending the feelings of undead with firm seriousness. Mylarka explained that helping spirits move on was sacred, but noticed Yuma's energy suddenly shifting unnaturally. Everyone grew concerned as Yuma appeared overwhelmed, forcing a nervous smile while nodding along to their explanations. Outside the mansion, the girls began preparing for bath time, hoping to relax after the intense discussion. In the warm bath, Aileen cheerfully welcomed the moment, appreciating peace after tension-filled talks inside the haunted estate. Yuma and Mylarka relaxed quietly, their expressions softened by the warm water and calm atmosphere. Yuma reassured the others with gentle resolve, insisting they'd be fine as long as they stayed together. Playful teasing escalated as Aileen reached out, causing mild chaos with her usual shameless curiosity and remarks. Yuma was startled by Aileen's sudden hug, the moment shifting from awkwardness to innocent laughter and surprise. Their conversation turned lighthearted, teasing Yuma about age and growth, bonding them deeper through honesty and shared vulnerability. Dick stood outside the bathing area, reflecting on Beatrice's presence and the mansion's strange history. Suddenly, an eerie force approached from outside. Flames and shadows rose, signaling something unnatural had awakened. As Dick turned, a scream echoed. He rushed inside only to be startled by an unexpected encounter. Caught off guard, he found Aileen covered in soap, claiming innocence amidst an awkwardly timed misunderstanding. Panicking internally, Dick tried to stay calm, overwhelmed by tension, confusion, and the pressing need to retreat. Dick composed himself, reminding his heart to remain calm as the situation suddenly turned unpredictable again. Aileen, undeterred despite exposure, launched a fierce strike, but her attacks couldn't harm the formless intruding spirits. Dick urged retreat. Meanwhile, Yuma, hesitant at first, was reminded how often she'd supported them before. While others panicked, Yuma stayed kneeling, preparing herself mentally as shadowy figures crept dangerously into her space. As the spirit loomed, Dick readied a spell, knowing if Yuma didn't act, he must intervene. As the skeletal threat charges, Yuma remains still, her presence forming a powerful spiritual barrier. Everyone watches in awe. The undead vanish. Her divine presence gently guides trapped souls to peace. Her name is Yuma Manafrose, a rare healer who purifies without chanting, calming restless spirits. The spirits dissolve into light, surrounding her as she floats, praying silently with peaceful concentration. From a distant view, the light expands beyond rooftops. He shouts her name, stunned by power. Yuma reflected on her inner peace, realizing performing requiems brought comfort she had long forgotten. She told Dick how meaningful it was, her expression soft, stirring a quiet response in him. She looked toward the bath silently, then mentioned Beatrice's soul still waiting in the attic above. Dick struggled to respond, caught between duty and emotion, before Aileen calmly stepped in with a towel. Yuma and Eileen reacted with surprise, shifting to modesty as the situation returned to a calmer pace. Yuma quietly climbed the stairs, dressed and alert, her heart heavy as Beatrice awaited alone. Yuma climbed to the attic, where moonlight lit the way toward her long-awaited meeting. Inside, Dick introduced everyone, Aileen, Mylarka, and Yuma, preparing Beatrice for their conversation. Beatrice, sitting formally, introduced herself with the surname Stolen, signaling a deeper truth behind her presence. Beatrice sensed Aileen's demonic aura, questioning Lord Stolen's past research involving dangerous forbidden connections. Dick explained the magic circle experiments summoned powerful demons, though success rates remained low and unstable. Beatrice revealed her origin, summoned by a controlled mage, belonging to the rare Wraith Queen species. The group reacted with disbelief, noting her beauty clashed with monsters they had seen before. Yuma's power purified others, but Beatrice was unaffected, having lost malice after a soul touch. They realized her nature drew undead to her, abandoned by Stolen, still bound by contract. Determined to protect the mansion, Beatrice challenged Dick, refusing to vanish without fulfilling her role. Beatrice, consumed by dark smoke, prepares to fight even if her magic ends her existence. Dick wonders if there's a peaceful solution that allows Beatrice to stay and survive. Dick calmly calls to Beatrice, trying to stop the escalation before she fades away. He confidently steps forward with a plan, gathering everyone's attention with a bold declaration. Beatrice explains the Demon Lord's authority, revealing she can't break her contract without his presence. The girls stared in disbelief as a familiar figure appeared before them, radiating ominous power. Verlaine casually revealed herself as the Demon Lord, shocking everyone with her unexpected appearance. The masked boy explained his identity and pledged to secretly summon the Demon Lord for help. Beatrice recognized their affiliations, recalling legendary titles from the demon world that few dared to speak of. The group planned to seal the mansion with Yuma's magic, securing peace for all spirits. Beatrice stood quietly before Yuma, hesitant and unsure, with the covered statue between them. With tears forming, Beatrice confessed her burden, questioning if her presence only caused suffering and trouble. Yuma gently extended her arms, assuring Beatrice her soul wasn't yet ready for departure. They acknowledged her years of solitude, bound by a forgotten promise, lost in eternal waiting. The bishop embraced Beatrice with warmth, while Yuma smiled, relieved her choice brought real healing. Beatrice, overwhelmed by emotion, admits vulnerability, while Yuma gently supports her in quiet understanding. Beatrice considers asking for life energy, unsure if anyone would willingly help her situation. Mylarka hesitates but considers donating magic, while Dick evaluates the risks of the transfer. Yuma ponders the outcomes while Mylarka signals encouragement, prompting him to decide their best move. With pressure from both girls, Dick feels obligated to donate energy despite internal hesitation. Dick agrees to give magic. Beatrice thanks him and leaves to prepare herself privately. Dick removes his mask slowly, showing he's ready to act without hiding his identity. While resting, Dick hears a knock, assuming it's Beatrice, and prepares to answer it. Beatrice enters quietly, wearing nightclothes, her presence calm yet signaling the beginning of the ritual. She assures him no more need for formality, confessing it's her first time receiving life energy. Beatrice faced Dick calmly, her voice gentle, asking him to forget formalities between royalty and friends. Though hesitant, Dick questioned her method. She stepped closer, requesting contact, her eyes laced with silent tension. Her request grew bolder, suggesting shortcuts through closeness. Acknowledging the energy transfer demanded deep, mutual trust and resolve. Dick hesitated, unsure. Beatrice explained her loneliness. 10 years secluded among spirits, longing for warmth and presence. She vowed to take only bits of energy, slowly, easing his burden with respectful care and grace. Beatrice removed her robes silently, allowing moonlight to reflect across her form with unspoken determination. Dick stood frozen as her steps approached. She initiated the ritual with calm, focused contact. Their connection deepened as she drew faint energy, but her needs required more than surface exchange. She gently guided him down, continuing the ritual where physical closeness helped ease the energy transfer. Dick noticed her warmth defied expectations. She felt human, stirring confusion within his thoughts and quickened heartbeat. Beatrice rested atop Dick, determined to continue drawing energy steadily, intending to last until sunrise. The next morning, Dick returned to the mansion with Verlaine. The unrested spirits had been subdued. Verlaine formally renounced her Demon Lord title, entrusting rule to her brother and ending her reign. She acknowledged Beatrice's clan's loyalty, clarifying their duties had only been to protect, not fight during wartime. Reflecting on the past, Verlaine explained how tactics avoided full battles while exploiting unguarded opportunities efficiently. Amid contract discussions, confusion rose over loyalties. Verlaine asserted control would resume once Beatrice's current bond ended naturally. Beatrice calmly faced Verlaine, who clarified that any new bond would shift control to Dick. Dick hesitated, rejecting dominance, while Verlaine reminded him that Beatrice's desire should be considered. Before deciding anything, Beatrice expressed her wish directly, requesting a contract with Dick, offering her loyalty of her own will. Verlaine initiated the ritual, invoking ancient demon power to prepare the spiritual process of binding anew. The ceremony completed, Beatrice's prior bond dissolved, and she was formally connected to Dick Silver henceforth. The contract sealed Beatrice's name to Dick's soul, marking her with symbolic magical allegiance. Beatrice kneeled in acceptance, quietly repeating her new name, both hesitant and proud of its meaning. She acknowledged her status had changed, embracing the formal bond that connected her fate to Dick's. Verlaine explained the contract's meaning but emphasized emotional loyalty must still be earned, not simply expected. Later outside, Verlaine noticed Dick's lowered mana, subtle evidence of last night's bond leaving a lingering impact. Dick explained the minor mana drain, reassuring Verlaine he'd recover quickly without any real concern. Later that night, he reflected on the bond with Beatrice as he settled to rest. He sensed someone enter quietly. Verlaine appeared, lantern in hand, her presence calm but undeniably forward. Surprised by her closeness, Dick questioned her. Verlaine admitted her intention to complete an unfinished moment. Confronting him, Verlaine expressed frustration not over mana, but the intimacy he'd already shared with Beatrice. Verlaine pressed close, leaving Dick startled. As her intentions became harder to misunderstand or avoid, she insisted her role meant receiving mana too, drawing close with sincerity and a steady gaze. Despite hesitation, she took his hands gently, claiming her duty as maid required direct magical assistance. Their contact grew more intense, physical closeness building as Verlaine responded with tension masked in composure. Dick panicked at her reactions, unsure how to manage the pressure or her unexpected emotional response. Verlaine offered her mana, insisting it was routine. Dick hesitated, feeling nervous yet obligated. As contact began, unfamiliar tension filled the air. His hands trembled, unsure of proper pacing. Mana transfer initiated. Verlaine arched slightly. Dick focused, overwhelmed by pressure and her intense presence. Power surged rapidly. Dick's body strained to absorb it all, mana exceeding his natural limits. Verlaine's expression softened with effort. Dick steadied himself, realizing mana exchange demanded trust and surprising endurance. Verlaine steadied herself, admitting the excess mana returned to her after overwhelming Dick's limit. She rested her hand over herself, feeling drained yet strangely fulfilled by the completed exchange. Leaning closer, she softly questioned him, suggesting their shared exhaustion was a sign of unity. Her strength waned. She collapsed beside him, whispering appreciation for his unusual magical endurance. Moments later, Verlaine fell asleep peacefully, her body finally resting after the demanding mana ritual. Dick woke to find Verlaine beside him again, surprised by the familiar awkward morning situation. Around town, people recovered and expressed gratitude. Verlaine quietly resumed her duties behind the counter. Yuma reflected on her vulnerability, while Dick offered thoughtful words to ease her quiet shame. Though Dick deflected praise, Yuma recognized his strength. She saw through his calm, composed exterior. Yuma confessed her devotion, longing to comfort Dick's soul. Verlaine acknowledged Euphilia's rare spiritual gift. Yuma explained purification required balance and fairness, especially now that her church role had ended. Inspired by Dick, Yuma planned to help others discreetly by becoming a masked wandering priest. Donning the mask, Yuma felt hopeful. Dick approved, impressed by her selfless determination and plan. Verlaine supported Yuma's decision. Her encouragement lifted the room's mood, sparking thoughts of future journeys. They toasted Euphilia's recovery with drinks. The moment felt warm, simple, and hopeful for all. The glasses touched gently. Together, they marked a new beginning, one built on trust and shared resolve. The group reached a remote valley, known for spiritual unrest and unexplained soul appearances. Yuma explained the church no longer controlled this area. Monsters and unrest had taken over. They confronted the rising spirits directly, shielding the village from threats no one else faced. With strength and magic combined, they defeated monsters lurking beyond the peaceful rural borderlands. Without seeking fame or reward, the masked heroines vanished quietly, mission complete, identities unspoken. Rumors of the masked saviors spread quickly, drawing admiration from villagers and interest from knights. One observer, feeling overlooked and uninvited, questioned why he hadn't been called to help. Cody voiced her frustration. Despite their shared history, she felt unfairly excluded from recent missions. Dick calmly reminded Cody her identity couldn't remain hidden with her unique sword's signature glow. Elsewhere, a cloaked visitor entered the bar, calmly requesting milk, unnoticed but clearly observing everything. A cloaked girl entered firmly, requesting help, confident the guild could handle any request. Cody left in a rush. Dick and Verlaine quietly observed the newcomer's noble-like demeanor. Despite appearing strong, she confessed deep regret, blaming herself for failures and lacking sufficient power. Dick offered a drink to ease tension, signaling Verlaine to bring something fitting for guests. Annoyed by the mood, she insulted Dick's habits, but Verlaine urged her to speak clearly. The drink's rare fruit and high alcohol mix was crafted to ease mental fatigue and stress. Verlaine observed carefully. The girl admitted the flavor calmed her more than she expected. With her composure restored, she reconsidered her words and apologized for earlier assumptions and rudeness. She revealed her real mission, asking the guild's help to stop threats endangering the entire country. Verlaine handed her a pen, offering patience. The girl hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Kirsch writes her request in full. Verlaine reads it silently, while the man observes calmly. Verlaine pauses in shock. The names Zebius and Vinceberg stir deep concern and hidden memories. Kirsch apologizes for earlier harshness, formally introducing herself and revealing her ties to the noble family. She admits her identity as a Vinceberg aide, revealing this was meant to stay anonymous. The knight acknowledges the issue, downplaying its importance, but hints he'll intervene if the Duke acts. The strategist advises caution and patience. The maid accepts the truth, preparing for possible consequences quietly. They uncover a betrayal and alliance between the Duke's family, and Berbeckia threatens national stability. Kirsch reveals the messenger was ambushed. Some confidential letters were stolen by unknown attackers during transit. She explains her mission to retrieve the letters. The instructions were divided and tightly controlled. Verlaine questions the situation. Kirsch hesitates, then admits all the bandits involved are now mysteriously dead. Under the heavy rain, Kirsch received the order. Without question, the soldiers began killing. Kirsch stood frozen, blood on her cheek. Her eyes trembled from the horror she witnessed. A suspicious letter warned her Vinceberg's border was exposed through a hidden mountain route betrayal. Verlaine confirmed it. The Duke conspired with Berbeckia to seize the capital using marriage. Dick realized the truth. People's ambition destroyed peace more dangerous than any monster they'd slain. Verlaine observed Dick and Kirsch quietly, her mind already calculating the risks ahead. She confronted Kirsch about Berbeckia's support for rebellion, insisting it was too much alone. Verlaine formally accepted the mission, declaring herself the only one capable of handling it. With confidence, Verlaine swore to resolve everything. Kirsch, overwhelmed, could only nod in silent hope. Kirsch cried in gratitude. Verlaine comforted her, reminding her that no life was expendable. Verlaine smiled softly, asking Kirsch only to stand proudly again. No reward was necessary. Meanwhile, Dick received a quiet boost from his comrade bonding before the looming challenge ahead. Verlaine clarified the scale. Dick must choose between destroying or saving the royal family's fate. Dick explained his plan carefully. Acting discreetly was vital, since Berbeckia's army was already on the move. They discussed another powerful ally, a reckless girl once feared as a walking natural disaster. The castle-like academy stood tall. No one understood why she enrolled in magical arts training. Inside, Mylarka sensed unrest. Though feared for her strength, she felt someone was watching her carefully. At the Albine Magic Institute, Mylarka struggled to reach a high shelf, visibly annoyed. Dick appeared beside her, grabbing the book effortlessly. Mylarka questioned how long he was watching. Curious, she confronted him. If he came here directly, surely he had a reason. Dick asked her to join. Mylarka refused, saying she only wore the mask for Yuma. Dick accepted the rejection but reminded her sincerely that he still valued her as friend. Dick silently judged Aileen's unpredictability, knowing full well she might be the true threat herself. Mylarka offered a condition: if Dick helped fetch a book, she'd reconsider his request seriously. She kept adding more books. Dick hesitated but used magic to lift them all easily. For once, Mylarka expressed gratitude. Dick was shocked to hear her speak with gentle honesty. They shared a light moment. Dick's words surprised her, as he praised her without hesitation. Dick joked about Mylarka's expression. She dismissed it casually, arms full of books and sarcasm. They flew by dragon to investigate. Mylarka panicked, lacking experience with airborne travel or beasts. Dick reassured her. The dragon followed commands through his magic flute, not physical riding skill. Flustered but trusting, Mylarka agreed to hold on. their awkward closeness made her visibly uncomfortable. From above, Dick spotted Berbekia's hidden path. Mylarka, impatient, suggested blasting everything just to be sure. Dick spotted soldiers in black armor. Their gear didn't match Albine's army, it had to be Berbekia. As they observed, one scout threatened a girl. Dick immediately recognized the danger from above. Mylarka was startled midair. Dick's sudden movement startled her while she tried to keep control. The scout raised his sword. Mylarka dove recklessly. Dick shouted, fearing for the girl below. With urgency, Mylarka adjusted course, both prepared to intervene directly before blood could be spilled. Mylarka raised her hand, chanting fiercely. From above, she prepared to strike down Berbekian scouts. Raya sprinted through the forest, chased by hooves pounding behind her, breath shallow from exhaustion. Her legs gave out as she reached sunlight. She collapsed, scraping her arms against rough ground. Before she could move, mounted knights surrounded her, one pointing a crystal blade directly at her chest. A powerful gust broke through. Above, a dragon descended, casting shadow and fear over the battlefield. The soldiers panicked as the fire dragon roared, diving toward them with unstoppable force and fury. The dragon's claw crashed down beside the soldiers, throwing them into confusion and fear instantly. The soldiers spotted riders on the dragon's back and quickly raised bows, preparing to launch an attack. Before they could fire, the masked woman snapped her fingers, activating a silent magical defense. A glowing formation expanded from the riders, disrupting enemy movements. Particle breakdown formation, Form 66 deployed midair. Armor shattered and weapons disintegrated, leaving soldiers helpless. They screamed, unable to comprehend the overwhelming counterattack. The soldiers trembled, unable to understand how Dick cast high-level magic instantly without preparation. Realizing Dick was an Albine dragon master, the soldiers panicked and began retreating on horseback without orders. Mylarka questioned his intent, but Dick activated a sound-based magic, shielding her ears before casting. Dick focused, channeling his magic through the pendant. The dragon's energy resonated in sync with him. The dragon roared with explosive force, freezing enemy movements and shaking the battlefield with overwhelming power. Soldiers collapsed unconscious from the roar's impact. Raya watched silently as frightened horses fled alone. Mylarka raised her hand, signaling the dragon to halt its next move before causing further destruction. She and Dick reaffirmed their masked duty, determined to intervene where justice had been ignored or silenced. Dick admitted the declaration wasn't planned, his words had simply emerged, driven by instinct rather than consensus. Mylarka reflected aloud, wondering if a more dramatic speech would have sounded better for their entrance. Raya smiled brightly, clapping with relief and admiration as she approached Dick, who remained silent. Mylarka questioned if Raya could understand their language while Dick communicated quietly with the dragon. To their surprise, Raya responded clearly, revealing her escape and identifying them as humans from Albine. She pointed toward the road, explaining the Berbekians' threats, demands, and location of their supply camp. Raya revealed the tribe's capture: men taken, women used as hostages, escape made possible by teamwork. Silently moved, Mylarka stepped forward and embraced Raya, acknowledging the pain she had endured without hesitation. Mylarka comforted Raya gently, assuring her that the danger was over and she wasn't alone anymore. Dick urged immediate action. They prepared to move toward the Berbekian camp without revealing their real identities. Rico gladly accepted the request, promising to inform the elder while smiling at the masked duo. Raya waved as the dragon took flight. She shouted for a gentler takeoff, but they vanished. That night, Dick infiltrated the heavily guarded Berbekian camp using stealth, preparing for their next decisive move. Dick landed silently inside the camp wall as a guard noticed the rope hooked over it. He swiftly grabbed the guard, pressed a blade to his throat, and demanded the prisoner's location. The trembling soldier revealed the beastmen were all held together inside a guarded central tent nearby. Dick knocked him out gently, instructing him to stay put if he wanted to live longer. Now alone, Dick activated stealth magic, disappearing from view as he approached the guarded tent silently. Dick silently slipped inside the tent, hidden by magic, observing the guard from behind the curtain. Inside, the captured beastmen were chained, helpless, listening as soldiers declared their cruel fates without remorse. The guard mocked their resistance, announcing separation and slavery, ignoring their silent defiance and determined stares. Gripping his whip, the guard prepared to strike, threatening to teach them pain through brute force. He chose a male beastman first, justifying cruelty by claiming beastmen healed like monsters. Without concern, Dick struck the cruel guard hard across the face, stopping him before he could whip again. The beastmen watched in shock as Dick revealed Rico's message and intent to rescue everyone. They questioned his sudden appearance, surprised by his words and knowledge, but began to believe his claim. Dick drew his sword confidently, asked them to step back, then activated a powerful technique called Spirit Blade. With one sweeping strike, he slashed the wooden wall, breaking their confinement in a brilliant arc of energy. Dick calmly sheathed his sword as the slashed wooden wall began to crack with precision lines. The massive wooden logs collapsed loudly, shocking everyone as the outer barrier completely fell around the group. He ordered the beast men to flee quickly while silently confirming someone else's role in the rescue plan. Dick stood firm as enemy soldiers surrounded him, demanding answers, readying their weapons with overwhelming numbers. Raising his hand, he warned them with light magic, urging surrender to avoid needless bloodshed. Under the bright moon, soldiers readied their bows, preparing for an unexpected battle ahead. Suddenly, a menacing dragon appeared, its wings darkening the sky, signaling impending doom for everyone. Dick unleashed a devastating spell, targeting the fortress, causing chaos and panic among the defenders. The fortress walls crumbled, leaving soldiers in shock, realizing their strength could not withstand defeat. Amid the destruction, Dick analyzed the situation, admiring his team's precision and calculating their next strategy. Dick commanded a swift retreat, ensuring all units returned safely after the intense battle. That night, the tranquil Tiger Folk village celebrated, their tents illuminated under a starlit sky. At the feast, Dick and Mylarka enjoyed delicious food, grateful for the villagers' warm hospitality. Despite the celebration, Dick sensed danger nearby, aware that the Berbekian army was still present. Venturing into the foggy forest, he detected traces of magic, heightening his anxiety for Mylarka and Rico. Dick spotted light beyond the bamboo wall, growing anxious about Mylarka and Rico's safety inside a warm bath. Mylarka and Raya shared laughter, finding comfort amid their recent struggles. Mylarka expressed her gratitude to Raya, thankful for her support after the recent battle. The two discussed Dick, admiring his bravery and strength, recognizing his importance as a protector. Outside, Dick contemplated the situation, reflecting on the bonds formed with his companions for survival. In a secluded village, Raya playfully bathed with her friends, inviting laughter and anticipation. Curiosity lingered as they discussed their absent companion, who seemed hesitant to join their revelry. Concern grew when Raya noticed his unusual absence, prompting speculation about his feelings towards the gathering. Amidst warm moonlight, the duo shared secrets, their bond strengthening while addressing unspoken emotions. Meanwhile, Dick lay awake, grappling with his feelings after a significant emotionally charged event. Dick awoke, reflecting on the previous night's events, still feeling the effects of revelry. Conflicted thoughts filled his mind, struggling between memories and the weight of unexpressed emotions. Outside, a silhouette of a mysterious figure loomed under the moonlight, silently watching over the village. The night sky shimmered over Alvina's as Aileen silently surveyed the city from the balcony. Aileen sensed someone approach from behind but remained focused, hiding her tension beneath the horned black mask. Dick arrived with critical intel. Enemy nobles and guards were inside, plotting to abduct a princess. She crouched low, calculating the breach as the enemy's movements confirmed the worst-case scenario was beginning now. While Dick prayed she minimized damage, Aileen prepared to strike without hesitation or mercy inside enemy walls. Aileen smiled beneath her mask, aware she would unleash force despite promising to hold back. She boldly stepped into the nobles' chamber, halting their secret meeting with a sudden, unapologetic entrance. The startled men panicked, accusing her of intrusion and scrambling to summon their mercenaries for defense. Aileen closed in silently, cornering one man with cold precision, questioning his intentions without raising her voice. As the others fled in terror, she calmly warned them to escape before things escalated further. Aileen struck with swift precision, knocking down nobles and guards using sheer martial dominance and targeted blows. Reinforcements burst in, stunned by the wreckage and demanding answers as Aileen stood over fallen enemies. One man lunged at Aileen with daggers. Dick shouted a warning, but she didn't flinch at all. The daggers flew rapidly toward Aileen, who calmly entered a defensive stance, prepared for the incoming assault. Despite their confidence, the soldiers' sword charge was reckless, ignoring Aileen's readiness and underestimating her refined strength. Aileen launched herself over the soldier mid-attack, countering swiftly while dodging a second ambush from behind. The enemy's dagger barrage missed. Aileen emerged unscathed and rebalanced behind her foe with perfect control. She scolded the attacker for tearing her cloak, annoyed by the damage during the scuffle. The soldier roared in anger and swung his blade wildly, but Aileen crouched and slipped beneath it. With flawless timing, she spun and delivered a decisive kick straight into her opponent's unguarded chest. Aileen's spinning kick shattered the enemy's blade guard, leaving him frozen in shock and unprotected. As he attacked, she unleashed a devastating martial technique, cutting through his defenses with precise destructive force. He was thrown backward, unable to counter as Aileen's follow-up strike knocked the weapon from his grasp. Mocked as a monster, she calmly reminded him she expected compensation for the damaged property. Without hesitation, Aileen delivered a rapid barrage of strikes, overwhelming him with speed and flawless execution. Aileen stood calm as her opponent collapsed, smoke rising, satisfied the fight ended without further resistance. Proudly, she declared herself the masked savior, vowing to protect the kingdom with unwavering determination. While enemies groaned in defeat, her companion regretted not joining the action to display his full strength. They questioned the conspirators about Berbekia's attack and demanded answers regarding the threat's timing and strategy. Learning the enemy's plan, Aileen insisted punishment was necessary to prevent national collapse and restore military order. Dick requested Irene deliver a message, knowing Cody's role would soon become crucial to their mission. Irene approached Cody's window casually, informing him that urgent instructions were waiting despite the unusual timing. Cody, pausing preparations near her armor, guessed it was Dick's message before hearing any details. Irene advised Cody to rest, noticing his fatigue from training, and hinted at self-care importance. Cody admitted the bandaging was tedious but necessary, aware it impacted her development and field readiness. Cody removed her towel calmly, asking Irene to spar again, hoping to regain her former edge. Cody reflected on her decision, bandages representing discipline, hiding strength and truth from those around her. Despite the concern shown, Cody insisted her silence was justified, built on the foundation of trust. Aileen questioned Cody's choice, believing truth was better than quietly suffering with such a heavy secret. Cody dismissed the concern, claiming lies became normal, but Aileen remained skeptical of her response. Staring at the moonlight, Cody silently vowed to become Dick's sword loyal without hesitation or doubt. Aileen quietly observed Cody's feelings, realizing Cody truly liked Dick and hoped he'd notice soon. Cody, smiling faintly, admitted if Dick found out, she'd erase his memory without hesitation. Later that night, Cody asked Aileen again about Dick's message, her tone calm but curious under the stars. With Verlaine guiding the way, Cody descended hidden stairs beneath the tavern to a secret location. They arrived at a mysterious underground chamber, Cody silently preparing herself beside Verlaine for what was next. Cody reminded Verlaine how rare teleport crystals were, recalling their fierce battle and shared bloodshed. Verlaine finally asked Cody why she hadn't killed her during that dangerous fight years ago. Cody explained Dick's strategic decision spared Verlaine, preventing a prolonged war with the Demon Kingdom's forces. She remembered Dick's plans achieving victory with minimal effort, always choosing the most efficient path through chaos. Still unsure, Verlaine wondered why Dick never saw Cody's secret, continuing to trust her completely. Cody expressed his deep friendship with Dick, while Verlaine quietly accepted her current emotional limits. With the teleportation circle ready, Cody confirmed his destination near the advancing Berbekian army's location. The teleportation activated, and Cody requested Verlaine to report his deeds to his absent master. Cody stood silently in the magical light, gathering resolve as the spell prepared to launch. Arriving at the new location, Cody was greeted by a hooded figure offering immediate support. Cody learned of corruption among the guards and ordered the guild's arrest to restore order. Donning his helmet, Cody took a new identity and declared himself as the masked savior. The city guards kept watch over the high walls, unaware of the intruder approaching silently. Cody was blocked at the gate but calmly confronted the guards without revealing his identity. Using swift movement, Cody evaded detection, climbed the wall and vanished before the soldiers could react. From the watchtower, guards noticed strange shapes far west, stirring confusion under a reddening evening sky. The approaching silhouettes became clearer, Berbekian soldiers in full force, signaling a full-scale invasion. As panic spread, a lone figure atop the tower shouted orders, commanding the overwhelmed defenders. Masked Savior watched as retreating soldiers exposed their betrayal, bribed by Rhaeg to abandon their duty. With determined eyes and magic pulsing in hand, the Savior vowed to repel Berbekia's forces. Cody summoned her Sword of Light with a spell, drawing power from her silent past. She remembered childhood pain, mistrust of everyone, even Dick, her loneliness darker than any battlefield shadow. Despite everything, Dick had reached her, breaking walls she'd built, changing her heart forever. Cody invoked her real name, Cordelia, vowing before dawn's light to protect all with strength. Light surged from her sword as she unleashed Horizon Barret, defying fate with radiant might. The Berbekian army lined up before the fortress, armored and shielded, preparing for a full siege. A signal went out. Soldiers repositioned. One flag was suddenly pierced, creating confusion among the ranks. The Berbekians panicked, believing Albine had fired. Their commander dismissed it as a random lucky strike. The commander mocked Albion's defense, but his helmet was blasted off before he could finish speaking. A devastating blast tore through their watchtower, proving Albion's power and silencing the invading army's morale. The soldiers froze in panic as Cody's attack broke formation. Chaos followed and retreat was ordered. Albion's troops watched silently from the walls as Berbekian forces retreated in complete disorder and fear. Cody, the masked woman, addressed Albion's troops, warning them not to rely solely on her. She urged them to train harder, daily. Her power alone would not always protect them. Lowering her mask briefly, Cody knew she must guide them properly when the battle ends. Cody stood alone in the plaza, watching Dick fly off with an unknown girl. She raised her hand calmly, signaling farewell as Dick disappeared with the dragon into clouds. Smiling gently, Cody swore loyalty to Dick, shifting from dear friend to devoted comrade forever. Dick and Mylarka soared above the city. She guided the dragon with growing confidence. A fairy bird approached from the clouds. Mylarka raised her hand as it landed. The bird, gifted to Mylarka after the demon lord's defeat, carried urgent magical messages. Mylarka deciphered the bird's warnings. Xevious framed others for rebellion. Innocent guild members faced execution. She ordered Dick to intercept Jean, who now fled the capital, separating from Xevious. Though Dick believed leaders shouldn't fight directly, danger to his comrades forced him to act. With Mylarka's firm command, Dick accepted the mission, reminding enemies why he was once feared. Their enemy's betrayal had triggered a storm. Justice for the wrongly accused could no longer wait. Inside the noble estate, accusations flared. Xevious exposed secret dealings and condemned loyal soldiers as traitors. Kirsch knelt in chains, silent but unyielding, as judgment hovered above execution moments away. Xevious offered Kirsch a deal: betray her comrades in exchange for life and personal favor. When a subordinate protested, Xevious silenced him violently, proving loyalty meant nothing under his command. He extended his hand toward Kirsch, demanding a choice: submission or execution without further delay. Kirsch's silence turned to defiance. Her spit struck his cheek, rejecting his twisted offer outright. Bruised yet unbroken, Kirsch declared Xevious's crimes would be exposed. He denied guilt, unmoved by her words. Kirsch stayed defiant, accepting death. Mylarka, watching, vowed to honor her brave final decision. Xevious ordered her execution, claiming honor. Kirsch remained calm, eyes closed, awaiting the soldier's final blow. The sword descended swiftly, cutting the air, but something disrupted its path before impact could land. The blade grew unbearably heavy mid-swing. The soldier trembled, confused by the sudden force restraining him. Dick appeared, cloaked and calm. He reminded Xevious that true punishment belonged to the truly wicked. Dick stepped between Kirsch and her captors. The guards weakened, shocked by his sudden intervention. Using spirit reduction magic, Dick disabled Xevious's men, rendering them helpless without direct confrontation. Grants Bardot appeared, challenging Dick's interference. Xevious stood behind him, surprised, and now desperate. Grants launched a sudden attack, closing distance with aggressive speed, forcing Dick into a quick defense. Dick identified Grants's rank and origin, calmly preparing to counter the incoming spirit blade strike. Dick blocked the incoming strike with ease. Grants's attack lacked strength and precision under pressure. Grants's blade snapped mid-swing. Dick launched Shoot Rising, striking with clean force to disarm instantly. The impact hurled Grants into a crater. Dick stood calmly, ending the clash with authority. Dick realized the iron weapons weren't local. Berbekia's involvement hinted at a larger hidden conspiracy. Xevious trembled as his men fell. Dick taunted, demanding the next challenger step forward immediately. Xevious made a desperate move, seizing a sword and lunging. Hoping to escape the confrontation, he struck Dick, shouting defiantly, refusing to fall to someone younger, weaker, or less noble. Dick remained calm, stating it was already over. Xevious finally sensed fear for the first time. Xevious unleashed a high-tier spell, but Dick had already activated a counter-circle under his feet. Fallen and trembling, Xevious accused Dick of being a demon, unable to accept his defeat. Dick scolded Xevious, rejecting his hypocrisy. He compared demons favorably to traitors without true pride. Dick explained the spell's effects and warned against escape. Xevious collapsed as silence returned to battlefield. Dick used healing magic to treat Kirsch's injuries. She thanked him, surprised by his kindness. Another soldier panicked, blaming Kirsch. Dick responded instantly, striking without hesitation to silence betrayal and cowardice. Dick asked for remaining traitors. Kirsch's men apologized, expressing guilt and acknowledging her unshaken leadership. Kirsch explained her resolve. Her men once doubted her, but loyalty returned through her defiance. Kirsch questioned the masked man. He paused, reluctant, but prepared to answer with brief sincerity. Kirsch stood silent, surprised by the moment. Her expression softened, unsure how to respond further. He covered her shoulders respectfully, gave his reason and walked away, revealing his identity vaguely. She called out to him, thanking the forgotten hero, vowing never to forget his help. Kirsch's words echoed in his mind. She had known his identity all along and trusted him. He acknowledged her loyalty silently, deciding to leave things as they were for now, in secret. The guild publicly denied any ties to the masked saviors, preserving their organization's political neutrality. A masked heroine watched over Kirsch. Though saved, the girl remained unaware of deeper complexities. With the mission closed, the guild distanced itself. What happened was never part of protocol. 1 week after the failed conspiracy, Dick gathered allies outside the mansion for final confirmation. Inside the lavish hall, the masked host and maid welcomed the guests to a formal gathering. Dick's gesture honored everyone's efforts. The masked host explained their role in purifying the estate. Yuma, once eager to pacify souls directly, now reflected on restraint in her new growth. Smiling brightly, Yuma trusted Dick to build a sacred place where her powers could truly shine. Yuma confessed her lingering desire to relive the night she purified the mansion's twisted aura. She imagined Dick's distant future, cared for by family, while she quietly watched over him. The butler sensed the tension but redirected the group toward lighter matters to ease the moment. Yuma and others cheerfully declined alcohol, requesting simpler drinks to match the banquet's relaxed atmosphere. Dick chose his usual ale, but friends urged him to try something different for once. Dick accepted their suggestion and agreed to try something new, showing a rare, soft smile. The butler noted the change, promising a custom drink. Everyone prepared for Dick's handmade meal. Praise for Dick's cooking filled the room, but talk of his mana embarrassed him slightly. A companion admitted jealousy, laughing over how unaware Dick was of others' growing feelings toward him. While one girl teased him indirectly, Yuma gathered courage to quietly ask for his attention. Dick prepared a toast, but his mask became the subject of curiosity among his companions. The others encouraged Dick to join as a guest, not staff prompting him to remove it. Dick finally relented, smiled sincerely, and raised his glass high with the others in unity. Later that evening, the mansion quieted as someone turned a doorknob under the starry sky. Verlaine entered, realizing Dick would return late, giving her a rare moment alone in silence. Verlaine collapsed onto the bed, her mind restless despite the quietness of the empty room. She clutched Dick's pillow, comforted by his scent, while silently worrying about his late return. Recalling Dick's morning chores and spotless habits, Verlaine grumbled about his overwork behind flushed cheeks. Remembering his leadership and loyalty, she quietly admired his rare strength, hidden beneath humble routine. Alone in her thoughts, she admitted her feelings, convinced Dick would never truly understand them. Verlaine stared at the starry night, clutching her pillow, feeling abandoned and quietly voicing frustration. She recalled her choice to leave the demon kingdom, now questioning if it was enough. Daily routine dulled her heart, sending Dick off smiling while suppressing her loneliness behind glass windows. She warned his pillow playfully if neglected too long, she might act more boldly than expected. Startled mid-sentence, Verlaine blushed as Dick returned early, promising he'd make up for everything missed. Embarrassed and flustered, Verlaine shouted at Dick, forcing him to retreat from her room. Clutching her pillow, she insisted she was fine, confused by her own rising emotions. Alone again, Verlaine quietly admitted Dick didn't understand, but she still couldn't demand anything unreasonable. Dick knocked, apologizing sincerely, while Verlaine reminded herself she was both servant and former demon lord. Smiling gently, she teased him back, knowing this peaceful life might not last forever. Dick prepared to leave on a dangerous mission. Verlaine stood firm, hiding her shaking hands. As Dick walked away, Verlaine watched silently, carrying a hidden burden only he could resolve. She feared losing control upon his return. If that happened, only he could stop her. Dick awoke suddenly, breath shallow, remembering her final words. Verlaine watched him with quiet concern. Realizing it was a dream, Dick apologized. Verlaine gently asked if the nightmare still haunted him. Verlaine's kindness eased Dick's nerves. He admitted her presence brought comfort during his troubled rest. Later that evening, Dick visited the tavern. Verlaine tended the bar while guests steadily arrived. A guest requested Dick's favorite drink. Verlaine reminded them not to name other customers aloud. Celine Laura, a bold woman, appeared, once a guild master, now known for reckless gambling. Celine grew physically close to Dick. Verlaine watched silently, masking her feelings with practiced calm restraint. Verlaine allowed it reluctantly, claiming she'd sit just as close if roles were reversed. Dick suspected Celine's motives, questioning her visit. She dodged the topic, feigning additional business interests. Celine described her travels, In a beastmen village, she discovered something she considered unusually important. She insisted on compensation. As a former guild leader, she demanded fairness before revealing anything. The payment was unconventional. Dick agreed to settle it through a challenge, dice in hand. Verlaine appeared in a revealing costume, surprising Dick as she prepared for their planned contest. Dick grew uneasy with Verlaine's movements. Celine noticed his reactions, sharpening her gaze toward Verlaine. With tension rising, Verlaine and Celine shook hands. The challenge between them officially began. They clarified the stakes. Dick sought answers. Celine hinted she expected more than just drinks. Celine boldly declared herself the wager. If she lost, she'd give Dick all desired information. Verlaine assumed control as referee. With calm authority, she prepared the dice and judged conditions fairly. The contest began. The tension rose quickly, both sides wagering pride and secrets with every roll. Verlaine explained the dice rules. Celine teased Dick, hinting at mischief hidden in her challenge. Celine introduced a risky rule: clothing forfeiture. Verlaine and Dick were visibly shocked by her intent. The women pressured Dick, mocking his hesitation. He realized he was the embarrassed one this time. Dick reluctantly accepted the terms. Verlaine prepared the dice, while Celine remained confident and unshaken. The game began. Verlaine asked the crucial question: even or odd? The fate depended on choice. Dick chose odd while Celine hesitated. With even, the match proceeded under Verlaine's strict gaze. Verlaine noticed Dick's awkward stare. His focus slipped, drawn unintentionally to her bold outfit's details. Celine teased about losing dignity, pretending to be nervous. Dice rolled again between their competing ambitions. Dick activated enhanced kinetic vision. His senses sharpened, tracking dice movements with supernatural focus and clarity. The outcome seemed inevitable even. But Dick intervened with precision, determined not to lose just yet. Dick and Celine rolled again. She smirked knowingly, confident they both shared the same intent. Tension filled the room as the dice danced. Both players nervously awaited the final result. Dick discovered Celine cheating. She used water magic subtly to manipulate the dice in midair. Both locked eyes, realizing their skills clashed. The dice resisted, spinning unnaturally, reacting to magical interference. Suddenly, a wind vortex launched the dice skyward, disrupting the game and stunning everyone in silence. Verlaine smirked confidently, casting her dice while eyeing the boys' reaction with amused suspicion. Both of them grew tense as the dice rolled, their eyes locked in nervous anticipation. A water spirit emerged, subtly shifting the dice mid-roll, revealing Celine's concealed elemental interference. The dice spun unnaturally, influenced by magic. As both players noticed the unexpected change instantly, a powerful vortex erupted from the bowl, launching the dice midair and stunning both players. Celine stood undeterred after her fourth loss, still confident despite losing nearly all clothing. Despite his concern, she continued playing, insisting her honor demanded finishing while she still could. While undressing boldly, Celine kept teasing, while the dealer debated the rules and social consequences quietly. Celine stalled the match with playful indecision, while the dealer admired her shamelessly confident energy. After tense rounds, Celine traded information for her losses, ending a bizarre but effective match. Verlaine and Celine tried to serve, but Dick ordered them to sit and wait. Trying to show humility, both women stood up but accidentally revealed more than intended. Shocked by the exposure, they quickly reacted, while Dick froze in complete surprise and panic. Verlaine questioned what Dick saw. Celine sulked, both clearly embarrassed by the unexpected situation. Dick silently confessed he saw everything due to magic, now too ashamed to face them. Despite her complaints, Celine accepted her loss. Verlaine reminded her that rules were rules. Celine presented a torn leather strap, claiming it came from a dangerous creature near cattle. Dick confirmed the leather belonged to magical gear, though all maker traces were carefully erased. Verlaine asked if he had suspicions, but Dick deferred and promised guild investigation instead. Celine admitted she received the quest by chance, though she'd already failed and lost everything. A few days later, the guild bar returned to normal, filled with laughter and chatter. Cody joined Dick at the counter, cheerfully announcing she'd finally earned a partial day off. They exchanged sincere glances, both quietly excited to enjoy time together away from guild duties. Together they toasted, joking about pushing themselves until exhaustion, though clearly enjoying each other's company. Verlaine reminded them to avoid causing misunderstandings, but the moment had already warmed their hearts. A stranger demanded the guildmaster's presence, but Verlaine explained the tavern's limited operating hours. He issued a threat, warning death to anyone from the guild entering the ice cave. Verlaine asked for details calmly, but the man refused to change his aggressive message. Dick subtly slid him a drink, studying his reaction while Verlaine observed in silence. Dick suggested resting first, but Celine sensed the man's real reason involved the ice cave. The man revealed his affiliation with Blue Sagittarius, seeking the creature for personal reasons only. He clarified it wasn't about his guild, the pursuit was strictly for his own closure. Celine challenged his tone, reminding him adventurers served the guild. He demanded the guildmaster anyway. Verlaine gently questioned the creature's significance. His silence hinted at a painful truth beneath his mission. Finishing his drink, he quietly paid, then left under the night sky without another word. Dick and Cody discussed the man's identity, revealing him as SS-rank adventurer Sect Crucifer. Cody noticed Dick's subtle smile, sensing he was pleased by the unexpected encounter and outcome. Dick admitted the meeting held value, praising the adventurer's strength despite the tense confrontation earlier. Under the moonlight, he planned his next move, preparing for a dangerous creature ahead. Under the quiet night sky, a new customer tasted a drink, inspecting its quality. Lisa, from Silver Aquarius, joined them. She praised the place while enjoying Dick's thoughtful hospitality. Though clearly tipsy, she began rambling affectionately, asking where to find romance within the guild. Dick shifted the topic, hinting about animal regulation, but Lisa failed to grasp the meaning. He explained that uninspected animals were dangerous. Only licensed dragons and birds were legally acceptable. Lisa explained nobles fund exotic pets, forcing animal dealers to search relentlessly for rare creatures. Information revealed the Garamdor company profits from exotic animals, including a mysterious ice fox creature. Dick suspected the ice fox resembled a beastman, hinting it may be an intelligent race. Sect secretly chased the escaped creature alone, avoiding guild involvement linked to the damaged equipment. As night fell, Lisa concluded her investigation, realizing everything fit together and action was required. Under the moonlit night, Dick waited silently behind the tavern, planning his next cautious move. Sakuya Udzuki, a Ravirim, arrived swiftly and knelt respectfully, pledging herself to serve his mission. Dick requested urgent reconnaissance, asking Sakuya to investigate a suspicious location quietly and without delay. He handed her a document, urging secrecy. Sakuya accepted the mission with unshaken trust. Dick warned the case involved beastmen, but Sakuya reassured him of her complete loyalty. Under the dim moonlight, Dick quietly watched the closed door after sending Sakuya on mission. Verlaine confirmed the leather was magical, keeping a beastman trapped in more form as Ice Fox. Dick deduced the beastwoman might be close to Sect, explaining Sect's secretive and evasive behavior. They suspected the item might not be random. Verlaine questioned who could craft such gear. She remembered her mentor, the one who taught her magic gear, now possibly tied to this. A group of men in cloaks moves quickly through the dark alley, their eyes vigilant and alert. Sakuya walks toward the Garamdor company, her goal in mind, her path illuminated by the night sky. Approaching the mansion, Sakuya senses a faint scent, confirming her master's suspicions about a beastman's presence. She leaps effortlessly over the mansion wall, her senses sharpened, preparing for the challenges ahead. Confronted by fierce beasts, Sakuya calmly casts an illusion spell, setting the stage for her next move. Sakuya watches as the beasts fall asleep under her illusion, unaware of her presence nearby. After the beasts sleep, Sakuya observes the mansion's structure, looking for the right point of entry. She leaps onto the mansion roof, scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger or movement. From a window, she notices broken chains, realizing the invader could still be inside the mansion. With her focus sharpening, Sakuya silently enters through a window, sensing the presence of another threat. Sakuya prepares herself as a figure appears. She tightly grips her weapon, ready to strike. The man reveals himself, questioning Sakuya's motives. As they stand face to face in the dim room, Sakuya's eyes lock onto the broken chains, sensing the connection to her goal inside the mansion. The man, now enraged, vows to kill everyone in the mansion, his face twisted with fury. Sakuya, determined to stay focused, calmly addresses the man, explaining that she cannot leave yet. Sakuya reveals that the goods sold by Garamdor are beastmen, including the one she's searching for. The man becomes agitated upon learning this, mentioning his daughter was also involved with the company. Sakuya acknowledges the truth, noting that beastmen are being bought and sold as slaves by Garamdor. The man grows furious, questioning if Sakuya expects him to remain calm after learning the truth. Sakuya warns him that if he harms anyone in the mansion, Garamdor will pay the price. Sakuya and the man discuss the need for evidence before exposing the company's dark dealings publicly. Sakuya questions if Garamdor could be selling the man's daughter as an exotic animal, disguised. She suggests that magic equipment might have been used to hide her true form within the mansion. The man, understanding the implication, realizes the proof he seeks might be hidden within the building. Introducing himself as Gustav Wolfgang, he agrees to follow Sakuya's lead to uncover the truth. Dick is caught up with tasks, preparing a guide for the party going to the ice cave. He wonders if Raya and her party might cross paths with the dangerous man from the blue Sagittarius. Verlaine calmly suggests that Raya's rough fighting style would be best suited for confronting the ice fox. Dick, with a playful smile, teases Verlaine about her suggestion, as he's already planning his next move. Knocking on a door, Dick prepares to meet someone, his thoughts clouded by the upcoming confrontation. Dick arrives at the door, unsure of the situation. A warm greeting meets him from inside. The woman, still damp, invites Dick inside, teasing him playfully as she moves ahead. Dick hesitates, his mind racing. Despite the situation, he tries to maintain control and composure. Suddenly, she catches him off guard, anxiously questioning his actions and whether he's seen too much. As tension builds, she becomes more flustered, requesting he not focus too much on her current state. Dick recalls his past experiences, maintaining a calm demeanor, though he acknowledges the tension in the room. The woman thanks him as he helps, though she's unfamiliar with beauty routines, but appreciates his effort. She asks for a finishing touch, still unsure if she's being too demanding. Dick remains concerned. Dick hesitates, unsure whether he's being overly cautious, but still aims to help as much as possible. As the massage continues, Dick notices the cause of her tension and struggles with his thoughts. Dick hands Aileen a document with instructions, explaining the task at hand carefully, with no violence. Aileen agrees, noting the task is clear, and decides they should act quickly, ready for action. Dick reassures her that the situation is being handled, but the investigation into the Garandor company continues. Dick discusses the investigation, confident that Sakuya's team is handling things, but the tension remains. As Aileen responds, she begins to prepare for the next step, readying herself for the mission. Aileen steps in front of Dick, catching him off guard as she accidentally reveals herself. Flustered, Dick quickly looks away, but the tension lingers as Aileen adjusts herself behind him. Aileen's heart races, her anxiety palpable. She struggles to regain composure, feeling the pressure intensify. Dick hesitates, his own pulse quickening as he tries to keep his thoughts focused on the task. Aileen, now flustered, seems to struggle with her own feelings as Dick tries to distance himself. Aileen's nervousness is evident, feeling the tension as Dick holds her hand, both flustered. Aileen looks away, aware of the awkwardness, but Dick remains focused, his heart racing with tension. Suddenly, the door opens, and Sakuya enters, interrupting the moment with a matter-of-fact report. Aileen reacts with embarrassment, apologizing for her behavior, while Dick tries to explain the situation. Sakuya, holding a mysterious object, reveals a collar she discovered, linking it to the Beast Men. Aileen expresses her gratitude to Sakuya, recognizing the importance of the magical gear in their mission. The group sets out into the snowy wilderness, the harsh winds sweeping through the landscape. Aileen reminds everyone to keep warm, showing concern for her team's well-being in the cold. Raya, ever prepared, remarks that she's used to the cold, while offering a slight smile. McKinley and Regal discuss their goals, eager to prove themselves and make Dick proud during the journey. Aileen chuckles as she teases Dick about their relationship, referring to him as her older brother. Sakuya shivers in her thick clothing, commenting on how much she dislikes the cold despite wearing it. Aileen confidently leads the group, reassuring them that the cave should be colder than the outside. With a sudden burst of energy, Aileen dashes ahead, determined to reach the cave entrance quickly. Dick arrives at the cave, only to find Aileen waiting, signaling a serious encounter ahead. Aileen charges ahead in pursuit of the objective, leaving the others to catch up. Seku looks back at Aileen, recognizing her from the guild and wondering if they've met before. Seku becomes frustrated, accusing the others of not listening to him despite his repeated warnings. Seku reveals that they also have business at the ice cave, challenging Aileen's plans. Aileen inquires about Seku's intentions, trying to understand his involvement with the ongoing situation. Seku refuses to answer her, warning her not to get involved with the men on the ground. Aileen questions his true motives, curious about what he plans to do if he encounters the ice fox. Seku considers Aileen's offer to help, noting the magic collar's possible role in reversing the transformation. Seku confirms the ice fox once wore a collar, realizing the connection to the magic collar. He reflects on his earlier decision, admitting his misguided determination to confront the beast alone. Aileen reassures him that there's nothing foolish about protecting someone important, showing empathy for his resolve. Sakuya's swift arrival confirms their plan is in motion, and they are ready for action. Aileen prepares to move forward, asking Seku to join them for the upcoming exploration of the cave. Aileen explains the first floor of the ice cave, which is a dungeon once ruled by spirits. The team proceeds, entering the ice cave, now transformed by water spirits after its ruler's disappearance. The frost goblins have mutated due to the extreme environment, surviving by adapting to the changes. As the group faces the frost goblins, Dick and Aileen prepare to fight, anticipating their attack. Despite their numbers, the goblins are no match for the team's coordinated attacks and strategy. The group encounters a frozen slime, which is edible but requires skillful preparation to avoid sickness. As they ascend to the second floor, Raya notices something unusual: snow falling within the cave. They soon realize the snow is natural to the second floor, an unexpected change in the environment. A pack of snow wolves appears ahead, much larger than expected, causing concern among the group. The group learns that the snow wolves are led by magic creatures, which may be stronger. The group identifies the ice fox as a powerful creature, likely a dangerous boss of the dungeon. Dick warns the others about the ice fox's freezing breath, cautioning them against frostbite. McKinley strategizes with the team, preparing to distract the snow wolves while Aileen targets the ice fox. The battle begins with the team charging forward, engaging the snow wolves as they rush at them. McKinley, using his bow, shoots arrows at the attacking snow wolves, aiming to clear the path. Raya swiftly slashes a snow wolf in midair, taking it down before it can strike. Dick and the others charge toward the snow wolves, positioning themselves for an organized attack. Raya warns them to avoid the freezing breath as the enemy closes in on them. The group faces the snow wolf pack, and the ice fox awaits in the distance. Dick activates his shadow binding spell, paralyzing the approaching snow wolves, setting them up for attack. Raya leaps into action with precision, using her speed to strike the attacking snow wolves. The powerful move, the mountain-crumbling foot, cleaves through the wolves, clearing the area around her. Dick follows up, focusing on the enemy ahead, and unleashes a powerful shadow manipulation attack. Raya, impressed, acknowledges Dick's technique and freezes a wolf midair, demonstrating impressive teamwork. As the battle rages, a hidden force strengthens the ice fox, and Raya senses a mysterious presence. Aileen listens intently, a tense look on her face as Dick urges her to maintain focus in battle. Aileen swiftly counters an attack, the wolf's claws narrowly missing as she launches a powerful strike. As the blizzard grows stronger, Dick and Aileen notice an enhanced strength in the beast's movements. The wolf charges again, and Dick braces himself, shouting as the beast closes in on them. Aileen, now caught by the wolf's attack, struggles to free herself, sensing an unexpected force within. The wolf swings its tail in a powerful arc, sending violent gusts of wind toward Aileen. The wind intensifies, and the wolf leaps into the air, narrowly avoiding a barrage of spikes. The wolf lets out a ferocious howl, its rage and strength increasing as it prepares for more. Aileen braces herself as the wolf charges again, ready to confront the beast with her resolve. Aileen strikes with precision, her fist breaking through the wolf's attack with overwhelming force and determination. Aileen stands firm, preparing herself as multiple attacks surround her from all directions, focused and resolute. A flashback of Dick's protective spell enters Aileen's mind, filling her with warmth and reassurance. Dick watches from a distance, noticing the intensity of the approaching attack, unsure of Aileen's chances. Aileen prepares herself for the battle ahead, ready to face the incoming snowstorm with confidence. Dick, observing Aileen's powerful stance and the crimson aura around her, realizes she has martial abilities. Aileen reveals her true power, her transformation shocking everyone as she prepares for the ultimate battle. Aileen prepares for her battle, acknowledging the strength of her opponent while expressing gratitude for Dick's help. The fox charges swiftly, driven by its powerful instincts. As Aileen readies herself to counter, Aileen pushes forward with determination, expressing frustration that Dick hadn't revealed everything earlier about the enemy. Aileen unleashes a powerful ice attack, confident in her abilities. As the battle intensifies, Dick, witnessing Aileen's overwhelming attack, warns her to retreat, fearing the destructive force she's unleashed. Aileen, focused and determined, prepares to face the next challenge, ready to melt through obstacles. The fox charges, ice forming at its side, ready for another fierce clash with Aileen. Aileen counters, determined to end the battle quickly, frustrated by the situation and its pace. She unleashes a powerful kick, shattering the ice and sending the fox reeling from the blow. The fox retreats, its collar glowing, as it warns Aileen of a brief retreat for now. Aileen and Dick share a light moment after the battle, with Aileen joking about being called the bewitching demon. Dick reflects on the challenges posed by the fox, recalling how much trouble it caused. Aileen reveals the fox's true identity, much to Dick's surprise, as he sees its true form. Dick returns carrying the transformed fox, and Aileen is surprised to discover it's a girl. Dick finally introduces himself as the guild master, catching the newcomer off guard, revealing his identity. The group discusses Garam Door Company's crimes. Verlaine brings up important proof of their wrongdoing, gaining attention. Verlaine explains that Garam Door's dealings included beastmen, exposed through the guild's investigations and discoveries. The guild's evidence, including magic collars and documents, ensures Garam Door's guilt, preparing for official action. The conversation reveals a deeper connection. A man shares his distrust of the guild, uncertain about things. The situation deepens as the true identity of the man's brother is revealed, breaking the tension. Mizuha introduces herself to the group. She reveals her heritage, explaining she is part beastman. Mizuha explains her childhood. She was confined in a snowy village due to her powers. Seksan discusses Mizuha's past. He feels guilty for not preventing his sister from leaving the village. Seksan is confronted about his connection with the Blue Sagittarius. Mizuha encourages him to open up about it. The truth about Seksan's past is revealed. He vows to confront the guildmaster of the Blue Sagittarius. Dick and his ally vow to legally prosecute those responsible, urging safety for the sister. Verlaine reveals their investigation into the Garam Door Company's motives, but their mission evolved into safeguarding. Dick and Verlaine explain their guild's principles: protect the innocent and uphold honor, regardless of danger. Dick opens up, sharing his dream of creating an equal society free of discrimination and hatred. The ally, overwhelmed with gratitude, hesitates but accepts Dick's offer to build a future together. Mizuha, with her brother, requests to stay with Dick, and he warmly welcomes them. Dick assures Mizuha that he'll arrange a safe room for her and her brother. Sect introduces himself, ready to work alongside Dick again, expressing eagerness to assist the guild. The group jokes about Dick's persona, teasing him while admiring his leadership and charm. Mizuha playfully teases Dick, and Verlaine encourages the bond, ensuring everyone cherishes their guildmaster. A mysterious woman, perched on a rooftop, expresses both admiration and a twisted love for Dick. She hints at her dark feelings, vowing to break him due to his kindness. A drunken Verlaine teases Dick, claiming he must take responsibility for her actions and behavior. Verlaine playfully asks Dick if he'll take responsibility, teasing about undressing with alcohol flowing through her veins. Dick is caught in a situation where three women, including Mizuha, tease him with their antics. Dick, feeling overwhelmed, wonders how things escalated to this point, uncertain about his current predicament. The group enjoys drinks together as Eileen praises Mizuha's new look, and Mylarka joins the fun. Dick reassures Sect that everyone will stay the night, leaving no need for concern regarding Mizuha. As Dick ponders, Sect informs him that Mizuha was following the Garam Door Company's suspicious activities. Dick realizes the gravity of the situation, linking both the Garam Door Company and the Blue Sagittarius Guild. Verlaine warns Dick of the potential danger, suggesting that powerful enemies are behind the Beastmen incident. Dick acknowledges the complexity of the situation, preparing to confront the top guild, White Capricornus. Verlaine, as a maid, apologizes to Dick for overstepping boundaries, hinting at her former demon lord status. Verlaine encourages Dick to rise as the true leader of the guilds in the capital, declaring him the guild king. Dick, humble, rejects the idea of taking control, emphasizing that he's content as a 12th-place guild master. Verlaine counters, asserting that to achieve his ideals, Dick must seize power for himself and lead. Verlaine reveals her vision for peace, using her control over portals and information to bring stability. Verlaine urges Dick that if he wants, he can easily seize control of the royal capital. Dick considers Verlaine's words, realizing her view aligns with his desire to remain in the shadows. Verlaine smiles, almost amused, as she remarks that his current position resembles a king in the shadows. Dick laughs, replying he isn't exaggerating, acknowledging how her past as a demon lord shows through. Dick contemplates their next move, while Verlaine reflects on the waste of underutilized power. Verlaine, with a playful smile, expresses her dedication to serving Dick, raising questions about timing and propriety. Mylarka confronts Dick, suggesting he allows Verlaine to serve him without considering appropriate timing and place. The conversation grows more tense, as Dick, embarrassed, tries to explain himself, caught in a misunderstanding. The group secretly watches Dick and Verlaine, misinterpreting their conversation and causing further awkwardness. Mylarka, frustrated, confronts Dick about his neglect, questioning his commitment to their shared goals and future. Verlaine teases Dick about his flustered state, planning to visit him after things calm down. Verlaine mischievously suggests Dick should take responsibility for the detox spell, noticing he's drunk. Mylarka reflects on her own experiences with the detox spell, hinting at what she's curious about. Verlaine continues teasing, urging Dick to help Mylarka undress, hinting at her mischievous intentions. The playful tension escalates, with Verlaine making an unexpected comment about Mylarka's physical changes. Verlaine and Mylarka discuss their prime years, with both showing curiosity about physical changes. Verlaine playfully proposes measuring Verlaine's size. While Dick is caught off guard by her boldness, Dick, embarrassed, wonders how things escalated. While Verlaine comments on the antidote spell's effects, Mylarka seems concerned, while Verlaine teasingly suggests that Dick might be overwhelmed by the situation. A pause lingers as Dick, flustered, faces the growing tension. Mylarka prepares herself for what's next. Mylarka sits on the couch waiting while Dick struggles with the growing tension of the moment. Dick begins the healing spell, but Mylarka shows hesitation, feeling uneasy about the situation. The situation escalates as Mylarka questions whether the spell is working, and Dick becomes more flustered. Exhausted from the healing process, Mylarka sighs, wondering if it's over while Dick relaxes. The tension lingers as Dick, flustered, suggests Mylarka put on clothes to avoid getting cold. Dick, sweating and nervous, is left behind as Mylarka teases about the bath after healing. Dick sighs, exhausted from the day's events, and reflects on the discomfort he feels. Dick, submerged in the bath, hears unsettling sounds, wondering if someone is nearby. Suspicion arises as Dick wonders if Verlaine has returned, unsure whether an enemy is lurking. To his surprise, a playful figure emerges, confusing Dick further about the situation and intentions. Dick looks at Mitsuha in the bath, confused by the situation. He wonders how it escalated. Mitsuha giggles, unaware of the tension. Dick is uncomfortable as her behavior grows more playful. Mitsuha admits to drinking too much and apologizes, while Dick notices the situation getting complicated. Dick feels awkward but tries to distance himself, conflicted by his desire to help and his unease. Mitsuha expresses her gratitude but feels frustrated by Dick's treatment, unsure how to approach him. Dick is caught off guard as Mitsuha playfully touches his back, causing an awkward situation. Mitsuha, now more relaxed, comments on Dick's build, teasing him while he feels uncomfortable. She becomes more physical, pressing against him to feel his muscular body, heightening the tension. Dick's discomfort grows as Mitsuha comments on his physique, making the moment even more strained. Suddenly, Dick realizes Mitsuha's presence fully, and confusion and surprise fill his mind. Dick's anxiety increases as he feels trapped in the awkward situation, unable to escape Mitsuha's grasp. Mitsuha, overwhelmed by the heat, expresses her dizziness, and Dick feels even more uncomfortable. Dick tries to help, but realizes Mitsuha's condition is worsened by her intoxication from earlier. Yuma enters, offering to help, while Dick stands confused. Feeling the tension escalate further, Dick, shocked by the unfolding events, stumbles upon Eileen and Yuma in a compromising position. Yuma explains to Eileen that her soul must be purified to prevent her transformation into an onai. After purification, Eileen feels revitalized, thanking Yuma for restoring her. Much to her relief, Dick arrives, feeling guilty for overexerting Eileen with his requests. Unaware of the recent events, Eileen reassures Dick, but her playful tone hints at her mischievous nature, leaving Dick uneasy. Later, as Eileen and Yuma tease Dick about his lingering thoughts, they share a lighthearted moment. Mitsuha, in her lively maid outfit, receives praise from the customers for her energetic service. She greets new customers warmly, maintaining her cheerful attitude while carrying out her duties. Dick is caught off guard by a remark about a daughter, confused by the sudden assumptions. Leonid, an experienced lancer and guild master, casually introduces himself, clearing the confusion with Dick. Shelley, another guildmaster, wonders about the store's strange rule, but is focused on business. Dick discusses with Shelley about recent requests made by the mysterious White Capricornus Guild. Shelley is curious about the experiments tied to the requests, which seem unusually suspicious. Dick explains that the requests involve testing unverified magical tools, with no clear details available. Leonid expresses concerns about the use of hypnosis magic tools, suspecting shady intentions behind the requests. Shelley, reflecting on the situation, acknowledges that the Violet Scorpius Guild likely took the request. Dick, Shelley, and Mitsuha prepare for a conflict. Mitsuha is determined to fight despite the challenges. The air is tense, but they must act. Dick expresses regret for his delayed actions. Mitsuha assures him it's not his fault. The situation changed unexpectedly. Shelley and Dick discuss the White Capricornus organization. They wonder whether to confront them directly and uncover their true intentions. They discuss potential risks. The guild's request for magic tools may involve shady purposes, potentially involving hypnosis. Dick looks into a suspicious letter. He plans to investigate the White Capricornus Guild further, seeking clarity on their hidden motives. The White Capricornus Guild, once a prominent force, is now an abandoned shadow of its former self. Dick stands in confusion, questioning the unsettling changes in the capital and the guild's ominous activities. In the royal capital, Dick observes the Gemini Guild's impressive structure, feeling his guild is modest by comparison. After arriving at the scene, Dick uses his healing spell on an injured guard, questioning the destruction. Dick learns about the attackers, who are skilled in wind/spells, attempting to infiltrate the guild. Dick resolves to handle the situation, warning the guard to stay put as he prepares for action. Inside the guild, Dick faces the reality of the situation, realizing the attackers have already moved quickly. After completing the mission, the attackers celebrate their success, but one of them longs for more. The conversation shifts to a woman as another of the attackers grows impatient with the current situation. Suddenly, the door bursts open as Dick, wearing a mask, appears, questioning the presence of these intruders. Dick warns the attackers, raising his sword as one tries to attack him in response. A powerful fireball is cast, but Dick quickly summons a magical barrier to counter the attack. Dick silences one of the attackers with a powerful rune, preventing him from using magic. With the attacker now powerless, Dick explains that using fire inside the building was reckless. He flicks his fingers, sending the attacker tumbling to the floor, ready to take him to jail. Dick heals the injured woman, confirming there are more dangerous enemies on the upper floor. One of the attackers is shocked, recognizing Dick as a demon, fearing what's about to come. Dick warns the attacker not to badmouth demons, referencing how some live more decently than others. The attacker laughs menacingly, confident that even if Dick wins, they won't lose to that guy. Dick demands an answer from the attacker, who tries to avoid giving him any useful information. With Dick's threatening presence, the attacker retreats, frightened, and remembers how people once feared him too. Dick looks up the stairs, thinking about the White Capricornus Guild and the power dynamics involved. Dick decides that anyone opposing his principles must be dealt with, as there's no other option. The two sisters prepare to defend against the enemy, Lotte determined to push them back. Lotte, focused and fearless, charges forward with her weapon, striking at the approaching enemy. The enemy grins, seemingly amused, but Lotte's powerful attack comes dangerously close, knocking him back. As the battle intensifies, Lotte unleashes a sonic blade, aiming to defeat her opponent with precision. Lotte and her sister both notice something dangerous approaching, their eyes filled with concern. Lotte reaches out in desperation, calling for her sister, but their situation becomes increasingly dire. The enemy swiftly strikes, landing a blow on Lotte's sister, causing her to wince in pain. In retaliation, Lotte rushes in with a determined attack, aiming to protect her sister at all costs. As the battle intensifies, they realize the arrival of a new, powerful opponent, that person. The enemy strikes with his magic, causing ice shards to shatter across the room. The sisters, uneasy, watch Dick, knowing the battle ahead will test their strength and resolve. Dick assesses the opponent's power level, realizing the threat surpasses 80,000 points in strength. The enemy mocks Dick, revealing his ruthless nature, threatening destruction if not challenged quickly. Dick activates his ultimate spell, Spirit Release, Limit Burst, ready to face the enemy's overwhelming power. Dick prepares to unleash his full power as the opponent and the sisters watch, tense. Dick reflects on the burden of the Spirit Limit Hold spell that limits his abilities. Dick wonders how much more powerful he could become if he removes his current limitations. The opponent is intimidated by Dick's aura, sensing his overwhelming potential despite his restraint. The enemy attacks with a powerful move, convinced no one can survive his secret technique. Dick surprises his opponent by countering the attack with his skill, showing he's not to be underestimated. The enemy uses a powerful, slashing move called Randomized Scissors, aimed to overwhelm Dick. Dick stands his ground, observing his opponent's technique, knowing he can't block it with a barrier. Dick counters by using Spirit Blade Attack Rise, gathering energy to face the enemy's attack. The attack turns into wind blades, creating a dynamic force, but Dick remains calm, calculating. Dick confidently reveals he's removed his limiter, prepared to counter the opponent's next deadly move. The enemy unleashes his ultimate move, Storm Tempest, unleashing a violent and powerful wind attack. Dick stands firm, unshaken by the storm, confidently stating there's no reason to fear. With precision, Dick counteracts the wind attack, standing his ground against the overwhelming force. The opponent laughs, taunting Dick as he believes he's missed his target. Underestimating Dick's power, Dick responds with a quiet, unreadable expression, signaling his readiness for the next phase of battle. Dick interrupts the enemy's spellcasting by cutting the mana paths, rendering them unable to use magic. The enemy is stunned and confused, questioning Dick's power, unable to comprehend his strength. Dick's cold expression shows no hesitation, while the enemy becomes desperate, doubting their abilities. Frustrated, the enemy tries to retaliate, shouting curses, but Dick stays composed, anticipating the next move. Dick and his ally execute their synchronized counterattack, ready to finish the battle. Shelley skillfully restrains the enemy with her whip bind, capturing him as the battle turns. The enemy, enraged, yells threats, determined to retaliate despite his capture, his plans unraveling. Still furious, the enemy spits out his threats, vowing vengeance on those who defeated him. Shelley, unwavering, silently observes the enemy's anger, standing in control as he rages impotently. Shelley calmly responds, revealing her identity as part of the Red Gemini, maintaining an air of authority. The man stands, observing the situation. He notices something strange in the atmosphere, prompting a reaction from his ally. A sigh of relief escapes the woman as she identifies the mysterious man, confirming he isn't a threat. Dick apologizes for his tardiness, reassured that his arrival means safety. His ally is impressed by him. The women display vulnerability, unsure of how to react to the complicated situation surrounding Dick's actions. Dick explains his accidental mistake, a moment of tension rising as he quickly uses his powers to regain control. The women discuss the dangerous magic gear they encountered, confirming its sinister influence over others. The man, defiant, explains that the attack on the guild came from an authoritative command. The enemy, boasting of his strength and control over women, reveals his dark intentions with the gear. The women show disgust at the man's vulgar words, contemplating more extreme actions to stop him. Dick, unwilling to directly intervene, watches as tensions rise, while the women take matters into their own hands. Dick uses a healing spell on the injured man while urging Lotte to check on the guild. The interrogator admits his power was granted by someone else, revealing secrets about the mysterious benefactor. Shelley speculates that a powerful force is behind the man, preventing him from speaking freely. The conversation reveals a disturbing truth. The mysterious figure controls others, manipulating power with ease. The man justifies his actions, explaining how he views any disobedience as treason, forcing submission. The leader's grip on the guilds tightens, and Dick reflects on the ruthless manipulation of power. The guild's plans are reckless, but they realize that someone behind the scenes controls it all. Shelley considers how Dick's power might be used to restructure guilds and prevent such manipulation. Dick contemplates using his strength to change the balance of power, not out of arrogance. A tense handshake solidifies an uneasy alliance, as the powerful forces continue their dangerous game. Lotte's frustration bursts as she silences the annoying comments, and an intense reaction follows her outburst. The tension settles after the apology, and Dick, surprisingly, prepares for a rare personal visit. Dick's response reveals a change in persona, claiming to be more than just himself now. Lotte, caught in curiosity, cautiously asks if she can remove Dick's mask, but he hesitates. As Lotte slowly removes the mask, a shift in their dynamic begins, bringing closer understanding. Lotte expresses relief after confirming Dick's true identity, feeling comforted by his honesty despite everything. Shelley tries on the mask, playfully asking for feedback, but is warned about revealing too much. The former Demon Lord's power remains unknown. Dick, along with others, discusses the potential for collaboration with an SS-rank attacker. Dick considers his talented friends from the Demon Lord punitive force. Their unique skills could fulfill the daunting requirement. Verlaine, the former Demon Lord, recalls her magical teachings from Dick, reflecting on their past as mentor and student. Verlaine, now free-spirited, wanders through lands, doing whatever pleases her, leaving Dick with memories of their bond. Dick, deep in thought, remembers someone who could craft magic tools and enhance spells, a key figure. The Grey Jester's legend spreads, with stories of her heroic deeds or wicked actions following her everywhere. Dick prepares for the worst, feeling the pressure as he resolves to act in his power. After assessing the damage, Dick and she check on the Red Gemini members, ensuring their safety. Dick listens to Lisa, who provides updates on the dangerous situation regarding the White Capricornus group. She expresses concern about Dick's immediate plans to strike, questioning his decision due to guild tensions. Lisa admires Dick's stealth approach, noting how he carefully plans his next moves, making her feel reassured. As Dick walks through the town, he mentions needing his partners to help handle the situation with the guilds. The following night, the spotlight shifts to Fifth Avenue, where the focus is on a mysterious location. A figure in a mask approaches an underground guild disguised as a civilian house, preparing for action. The masked figure draws their weapon, the light blade, preparing for a confrontation with the guild's members. Cody's knife gleams dangerously, dripping with poison. She's questioned about its use but remains composed. The guard is startled, revealing that poisoning weapons is illegal in the royal capital, except under certain circumstances. The situation escalates as the guards shout "Intruder!" and rush to confront the mysterious figure. Dick reacts swiftly, using the Flash Veil spell to disorient his attackers, blinding them temporarily. Cody prepares her next move, activating a powerful skill, Harmonics, ready to strike against her enemies. Cody reflects on her failed stealth approach, admitting she's not as adept as Dick at this task. Cody continues her mission, slashing through the walls with a powerful attack, causing debris to fall. Cody advances deeper, evading traps and guards, skillfully stepping over obstacles with her sharp reflexes. Suddenly, enemies surround her, and Cody prepares for a fight, drawing her sword and bracing for combat. A guard attempts an attack, but Cody counters effortlessly, using her swordmaster skill to disarm him. Cody stands in front of an obstacle, focusing. Swords fly past as she strategizes. After taking down opponents, Cody surveys the scene, wondering if her goal lies ahead. Cody approaches the hidden door with caution, aware of the lurking threats inside the guild. The sound of footsteps fills the air as Cody paces toward her next target. An assassin stands before Cody, her determination unwavering as she faces the oncoming attack. Cody, using her light mirage, creates a decoy to confuse the attacking enemy, buying time. The enemy reveals his identity as the guildmaster. Cursing the collar that controls him painfully, she leaves him with one last warning, assuring him redemption would come only after he awakes. After finishing her task, Cody stands outside, speaking to Dick and preparing for the next mission. As she steps away, she notices the mysterious green cancer, signaling an ominous turn in the mission. Aileen inspects the collar, realizing it's identical to Mizuha's, while Yuma is intrigued. Aileen explains her requiem magic disturbs souls, freezing the golems and spirits guarding the area. Yuma feels healed by Aileen's purification magic, appreciating her comforting presence in dangerous situations. Yuma contemplates guiding souls to heaven, while Aileen teases questioning the separation between body and soul. Aileen's confusion grows as Yuma jokingly wonders if Dick would notice her unusual emotional state. Aileen nervously laughs, denying Yuma's suggestion, while Yuma teases her about internal feelings leaking. Yuma and Aileen talk about Dick, realizing how dependent they've become on his presence. Aileen reflects on missing Dick, acknowledging his dedication to others, leaving her with bittersweet feelings. Aileen seems confused by Yuma's comment about holding back, but they both dismiss the idea. Yuma senses Dick's tense emotions, urging Aileen to hurry so they can confront him. Dick questions why the masked figure is hiding, but the masked character acknowledges it's unnecessary. Dick stands under the moon, lost in thought, as a figure approaches and calls him. Dick and his ally observe the Demon Lord's forces infiltrating various guilds in secret. Dick notices an unknown spell blocking his attempts to inspect a strange weapon nearby. The warrior, realizing the intruder's identity, prepares for an intense confrontation with Dick. Dick analyzes the warrior's reckless approach, exploiting his lack of strategy to gain an advantage. A sudden attack from Dick's coin deflects the warrior's strike, showing a hidden opening in his guard. Dick realizes the warrior is aware of his Spirit Reflect spell, making him reconsider his approach. The warrior explains the Spirit Reflect spell's mechanics, warning Dick about its risk of backfiring. Dick counters the warrior's strength with borrowed magic, refusing to let him interfere with their mission. As the battle intensifies, Dick's focus falters, allowing an ally to shout a warning. Two hidden enemies are revealed, exposing the warrior's deceptive strategy. Dick must act quickly to counter. Verlaine casts a powerful spell, declaring she will handle the situation while Dick regains composure. The ground cracks and trembles as Verlaine's earth-rending spell sends enemy forces scattering in terror. Dick uses his spirit homing technique, launching a targeted attack with precision to neutralize the enemies. One enemy challenges Dick, claiming their own protection spell, but Dick counters with a strategic double attack. The situation has escalated, and now Dick and Verlaine can move forward without stealth anymore. Mylarka offers her protection to Dick, promising to destroy any enemies that stand in their way. Dick and Mylarka move forward. With renewed determination, they prepare for the challenges ahead. As they approach the castle, they face powerful enemies casting fire and ice spells at them. Mylarka and Dick unleash destructive magic, combining their strength to deal with the incoming attacks. Dick, recognizing Mylarka's power, trusts her completely, facing the ambush with confidence and unity. Dick and Mylarka realize the enemy's powerful mana is linked to spiritual magic, signaling danger. Mylarka explains the dangerous Spirit Actorize spell, revealing its potential to destroy the enemy's body. Dick senses the enemy's manipulation through a collar. As Mylarka prepares to act quickly, Mylarka prepares a powerful limited-scale destruction spell, while Dick watches the battle unfold. Dick and Mylarka launch a combined attack using Silence Blade and Particle-Splitting Circle to overpower enemies. The enemy leader stands, weakened, as Dick and Mylarka prepare to face their next challenge. Dick realizes they are facing someone familiar, the person who taught him magic and caused havoc. The enemy reveals their plan to hijack the guilds, but Dick firmly challenges the accusations. Dick reflects on the past, remembering his mentor's sudden appearance and the bond they shared. Dick, hesitant, considers removing his mask in front of his former master, who challenges him. D-kun and the mysterious figure meet again. Tension rises as their past resurfaces. The figure speaks with a mocking tone, reminding D-kun of the past connection they shared. D-kun remains steadfast, replying with a sharp retort, unwilling to let the past define him. The figure acknowledges D-kun's growth but hints at their unyielding hold over him, challenging his resolve. Mylarka, ever protective, steps in to defend D-kun, refusing to let the figure's words unsettle him. Mylarka stands her ground, declaring that Dick is no one's property but her own. Dick reassures Mylarka, reflecting on the past, feeling conflicted about his broken heart. Mylarka provocatively draws her weapon, recalling the days when she trained Dick in combat. Mylarka speaks cruelly, suggesting she will hurt and heal Dick like before, for old time's sake. Dick responds seriously, preparing for the fight, stating it will no longer be practice. Dick stands firm as Mylarka prepares herself for the confrontation, her intent unwavering as ever. Mylarka taunts Dick with a playful yet menacing goodbye, her blade at the ready. 5 years have passed, but Dick is confident in his growth. As Mylarka challenges him, their blades clash once more, testing each other's strength, neither holding back this time. D-kun strikes Dick, her blade clashing against his sword as they face off under the moon. Smiling, D-kun praises Dick for copying her teleportation power, showing admiration for his abilities. Dick acknowledges the basics of the teleportation crystals, while D-kun shares her deeper knowledge of runes. D-kun discusses the research team's lack of progress, hinting at a deeper mystery beneath the kingdom. Mylarka questions D-kun's timing, as D-kun plans to teach Dick whatever he desires upon his return. Mylarka scolds D-kun for her reckless actions, reminding her of the harm caused to Dick. Dick activates his mind guard skill to protect his thoughts, questioning how Mylarka knows this. Despite an injury from a dragon, D-kun heals it, showing her determination to help others. Dick acknowledges D-kun's sacrifice and kindness, remembering how she saved him during their past encounter. D-kun reveals a tragic truth, hinting at a past full of hopelessness even before her arrival. D-kun and Dick discuss the fate of the 12 guilds, with D-kun hinting at past events. D-kun teases Mylarka, offering to reveal information only if D-kun wins, fueling the rivalry. Mylarka, not impressed, complains about D-kun's spirit blade, but acknowledges her ability to deal with it. D-kun summons a spirit shield, showing a rare ability, similar to Cody's spirit blade. Mylarka questions D-kun's strength, suggesting that she should have gotten a spirit armor to match. Mylarka strikes at D-kun, but D-kun's defense proves vulnerable, leaving an opening for a counterattack. Dick dashes forward with speed, preparing to strike, as Mylarka watches the battle unfold. D-kun feels the intensity of the situation, sensing that the person before her has no malice. D-kun confidently declares that her shield cannot be broken, showing her mastery over defense. Dick reflects on the past 5 years, noting that D-kun's intimidating aura and mana remain unchanged. Dick reflects on D-kun's unchanged appearance over the years, realizing she hasn't aged like them. D-kun is hurt by Dick's pity, asking him to stop, questioning why he looks at her like that. Dick acknowledges his current self cannot defeat D-kun, but accepts that she will always chase him. D-kun's shield remains unbreakable, and she challenges Dick, telling him he cannot land a hit. Dick, preparing for his next move, swings his sword, fully aware of D-kun's unyielding defense. D-kun clashes with Dick, expressing her frustration, revealing that she waited for him to honor their promise. As the fight continues, D-kun's shield absorbs the attacks, but she remains unyielding, unwavering in her resolve. Dick realizes D-kun's strength, but also her distance. She's not someone who's felt malice or aggression. D-kun confidently declares that her shield is unbreakable, challenging Dick's every move in their fierce battle. Dick, determined, uses his most powerful move, Spirit Release, Limit Burst, hoping to break through D-kun's defense. D and his opponent clash fiercely, as his sword shatters the enemy's barrier effortlessly. D's sword skill overwhelms the shield, cutting through defenses, declaring that no defense is absolute. Despite the advantage, D contemplates why he still struggles to defeat his opponent, questioning his ability. As the battle intensifies, D unleashes his ultimate attack, determined to break through the defense. The final blow lands, creating a powerful explosion of energy as Dee presses on relentlessly. Dick slashed with his sword, surprised by the unexpected confrontation. Mylarka cried his name in shock. The battle grew fierce. Dick's own skills felt weaker, yet he moved with determination. His sword clashed against hers with great force. Mylarka questioned why he was still fighting. Dick remembered their past promise, pushing forward with his spirit blade, attack rise to prove himself. The fight continued intensely. Mylarka realized Dick was using Eileen's skills, shocking her and causing hesitation. Dick's strength as an adventurer was compared to theirs, highlighting how far apart they were. As the fight intensified, Dick was determined to show that his true strength lay elsewhere.